Chapter 790. In the training field there were altar-style buildings and there were many guards. Judging from the aura, there were many God-King level powerhouses among these guards, and the instructor leading the way in front had steady steps and a long breath. With every step he took he could faintly create a divine power impact, a total of 55 waves. The girl walked quietly, but in her heart she was thinking about what her chances of winning would be if she fought with this instructor. Perhaps if she used the celestial dragon crystal she would have a 40% chance of winning, but if she hid her cultivation of the law of light and only fought with the power of Shura, she might not even have a 10% chance of winning. Fortunately, this instructor did not comprehend the power of divine strategy, so he did not know the thoughts of the contestant behind him. Okay, your dormitory is here. The instructor suddenly opened an iron door. Inside was a row of beds, a total of 12, which meant that there were a total of 12 people living in this room. The moment the iron door was opened, 10 pairs of eyes looked over at the same time. It seemed that everyone was looking forward to who the last contestant in the dormitory would be. But when they saw it, they all looked a little disappointed, even contemptuous. There was no other reason. The clothes of the last contestant was only a god's servant, which meant that she was the lowest level existence in the realm of gods, but she was actually so beautiful that even women felt jealous. Go in. The instructor urged. Eat on time at 8 p.m. then get ready to start the training. Your daily necessities are ready, they are beside the bed. Thank you. The girl walked over silently. Her bed was the innermost one, the bedding was ready and daily necessities were placed on the table next to it. At the same time she also noticed that there was a girl in a beautiful short skirt sitting on the bed closest to her, somewhat similar to Xian's attire. She did not look at her from beginning to end. But her name was written on her bed, Terralyn, a contestant of the Light Clan, and also known as the strongest among the younger generation of the Light Clan in 500 years. She did not care about others, just sat down quietly, tidied up her necessities, then leaned against the bed and began to rest. However, the rest of the girls quickly became familiar with each other and started chattering away. Most of them were chosen by their respective families. Not to mention their own status, due to the power of their families, even if they were eliminated they would not be killed. Therefore they naturally did not need to worry about their lives, and their mentality was extremely relaxed. Hey, what's your name? Finally, a skinny girl asked her. Xian. Oh, King. The girl smiled. What a strange name. In the Western Divine Realm, there aren't many people with names that start with the character, she. Then Xian, which family recommended you? Xian was very calm and replied politely, it's not the family's recommendation. I was recommended by Lady Xian. What? Lady Xian? This sentence was like a stone thrown into a lake, stirring up countless waves. Almost all the girls focused their attention on her, and even Terralyn, who thought highly of herself, glanced at her. So strange. Lady Xian has never recommended anyone to participate in the chosen trial for tens of thousands of years. This time she actually recommended you. Could it be? Xian, you are Lady Xian's sister? No. The girl shook her head and said, no. Then how did you and Lady Xian meet? She hesitated for a moment and said, Lady Xian found me in the land of exile. What? The land of exile? The skinny girl was stunned. How is this possible? The land of exile is such a filthy place. How can people there be qualified to participate in the chosen trial? Lady Xian probably thinks that I have some potential. She replied helplessly. Immediately the girls hissed. At this moment, no one looked at her with admiration or respect. What kind of place was the banished land? It was a dog-eat-dog place and was despised by all the plains. Not to mention most of these girls came from the various great clans of the divine realm, and were doted on since they were young. Naturally they looked down on people from the banished land even more. At this moment Xian seemed to have been banished once again. However, she didn't care. She hugged her knees and quietly sat there waiting for the arrival of dinner. To her the opinions of others didn't matter at all. Sunlight shone through the small window onto the bed. She tried to touch it again and again, but her body was burned again and again. Finally, when she concentrated the power of the law of light under her skin, the burning pain from the god realm's sunlight was not as intense. Although it was still very painful, she was able to stay under the sunlight. She was somewhat gratified. If she couldn't do this, she probably wouldn't be able to pass the next trial no matter what. Finally, the 8th day arrived. The dormitory's metal door was pulled open again. An instructor holding a shining whip said in a cold voice, "All right, come out and eat with me." The group of girls stood up one after another. "Something's wrong." The instructor's eyes were cold. "Change into the training clothes you were given." Immediately. Only half of the people were wearing the training clothes. They were very coarse clothes, at least far inferior to brocade. Thus, only half of the girls here had changed into the training clothes, including Xian. "Instructor, the training clothes are too uncomfortable. Can't we wear our original clothes?" A rather good-looking girl asked. "No. Why not?" The instructor sneered. The whip in his hand turned into a long snake and flew out. With a paw sound, it shattered the divine power aura wall around the girl and left a long bloody mark on her beautiful face. "You can't. If you dare to ask a second time, this whip will crush your throat." The Chosen of God trial was far crueler than they had imagined. The girls went to change their clothes without a word. A few minutes later, they were all wearing the same clothes and followed the instructor out of the dormitory. Xian quietly followed everyone. She was the last one, and everyone seemed to think that she was the last one. There were a total of 12 girls in this dormitory. Apart from Xian, Terralyn was the strongest, with 29 grotto heavens. The rest were mostly at grotto heavens 1 to 20, and without exception they were all gods. After all, this was the Chosen of God trial, and it was the God realm. Mortals, even divine heaven realm experts, were not qualified to participate. Dinner was held in a large hall. This time they saw more people. A total of 221 participants were eating together, and the food was very exquisite and rich. There were slices of meat, bread, milk, and so on. Gods could not eat for a long time, but it would definitely affect their strength. Thus, maintaining a meal every day was something every god would do. The 221 people were divided into 11 groups, and Xian was in the second group. The instructor was a four-winged radiant angel, Li Fei. It was a name that was completely different from her, and her appearance was more in the style of the Shattered Cauldron realm, belonging to the Orientals. This was not strange. Although the four celestial realms had very different languages and cultures, their languages had already begun to assimilate after Fuxi ascended to the heavens beyond heaven. The people on the other planets were all different, and their languages were also very different. However, they would eventually return to unification. As the king of gods in the heavens beyond heaven and the founder of the Eastern civilization, this was very easy for Fuxi to accomplish. Among the thousands of planes under the jurisdiction of the Western Divine Realm, the Celestial Pole Continent and the other planes all spoke Fuxi's language and had similar cultures, but they were still under the jurisdiction of the Western Divine Realm. This was without a doubt. "Follow me." Li Fei wore a pair of leather boots and walked in a straight line. Her tight-fitting short skirt outlined the curves of her round and smooth buttocks, making them extremely enchanting. This caused a few of the male participants to involuntarily swallow their saliva. As the participants of the various great clans, they naturally did not lack women. However, they had never tasted a divine emperor-level woman like Li Fei before. "Haiku." Li Fei's voice was very seductive. She smiled and said, "If you continue to let your imagination run wild, I guarantee that I'll smash that dirty head of yours." The young man called Haiku was so frightened that his entire body trembled. He hurriedly lowered his head, not daring to let his imagination run wild anymore. "Today is your first lesson, and it's also the 9th last lesson." Li Fei brought everyone into a cultivation hall, and there was a group of guards keeping watch. She continued, "Today's topic is called control, the control of the powers of light. The reason why I've chosen to have this lesson late at night is because there's no sunlight at this time. I want you all to use your own abilities to create a temporary sun in the middle of the night without sunlight." Creating a sun was not difficult, but it was not easy. As a god, creating something was very common. Of course, it was very common for a god emperor, but it was not so easy for a new god rookie. It required a very strong control over the light element as well as a very strong reserve of divine power. Li Fei said, "It's very simple. Accumulate the power of your laws of light and blast it into the sky. Maintain the light and heat for 10 minutes, and you'll be considered to have completed the task. You can then go back and have a good sleep. Otherwise, you can only continue to stay here and participate in the trial. It's very simple." A young man walked out of the hall, and with a low roar, golden light enveloped his body. Waves of golden aura rippled out in all directions. His palms spun rapidly and a dazzling energy body condensed. With a shout, this sun shot into the sky, but it disappeared in less than 5 seconds. Li Fei sneered, "Oh, the young master of the Nisai family doesn't seem to have enough stamina?" Everyone roared with laughter. Li Fei's gaze swept across everyone and she said, "Who else wants to try?" After that, a few more participants went to try. The result was that they either did not have enough power or they did not have enough stamina. However, there was a young man called Lake who managed to last for 7 minutes on his first try. It was only a matter of time before he broke through to 10 minutes tonight. Finally, when it was Xian's turn, everyone's gaze turned to him. A girl giggled and said, "Xian from the land of exile, let us see what you've got." Everyone roared with laughter again, as if it was a disgrace to come from the land of exile. Perhaps it had always been like this. The girl remained silent. She knew that the land of exile was indeed too filthy. It was a memory that she did not want to recall. Chapter 791. Xian completed the task at around 1 in the morning. When she returned to the dormitory, she found that someone was already there. It was Terralyn. The moment she saw Xian enter the dormitory, Terralyn was a little surprised. She did not expect that someone who came from the banished land would be able to complete the instructor's task so quickly and return safely. Humph. Terralyn snorted softly. Xian, however, did not say a word. She quietly walked to her bed, took her things, washed up and went to sleep. After midnight, the participants came back one after another. Many of the girls' hands were red, bleeding and charred. That was the result of being burned by light energy. In order to condense enough light energy, their bodies had to undergo such a test. No one said a word and quietly fell asleep. The next day, an even more difficult challenge awaited them. The next day, before the sun had completely risen, a violent knocking sound came from outside. The instructor sternly shouted in a low voice, "Wake up, today's lesson is about to begin." The girls woke up with a start. Some of them had slept for less than an hour. No one complained. They hurriedly got up and quickly gathered at the training field. However, there were less than 221 people today. Just last night, 11 people were eliminated and they chose to give up. Today's lesson is very simple. On the high platform, Li Fei, who was wearing a short skirt and leather boots, held a leather whip in her hand. Her face was full of smiles as she said, "I am the Deputy Dean of the Western Divine Realms Training Field, and also the instructor of Class 2. Today's lesson will be held together, and the name of today's lesson is Dark Ice Crystals." Ah! Many participants showed a look of horror. Xian did not understand what was going on. Nearby, Terralyn glanced at her and whispered, "Dark ice crystals are also known as black coffins. It is the burial place of many law of light cultivators." Xian nodded and didn't ask any questions. On the stage, Vice Dean Li Fei giggled and said, "Look, these kids are scared out of their wits." That's right, just as you all know, the dark ice crystal is also known as the black coffin. It's a crystallization of pure dark energy and also a powerful dark domain. The black coffin contains the most powerful law of darkness. Once you enter the black coffin, you will no longer receive any help. You can only rely on your own strength to break through the darkness and obtain a new life. Otherwise, you will die in the black coffin. But don't worry, as members of the divine profession, you will receive a good burial. Many of the male contestants had fantasized about Li Fei, but now it was completely different. Li Fei was like a beautiful demon. This woman couldn't be touched or it would kill them. A young candidate asked in a tender voice, "Deputy Dean Li Fei, may I ask, how can our divine power of light break through the darkness?" The power of darkness in the black coffin is the root of the abyss of darkness. It is said that it is extraordinarily powerful. Humph, ignorant. Li Fei glanced at him contemptuously and opened her palm. Suddenly, dawn broke in the sky. A golden ray of dawn pierced through the darkness. Her body slowly rose and bathed in the morning light. He seemed to be very comfortable. For holy wings spread out behind her. She smiled and said, "We are all followers of the law of light. We seek the blessing of the Lord of Light. You don't understand what a god is, what power is. Now I can tell you," she pondered for a moment and said, "the light of the Lord of Light can't be seen by mortals. They burn everything. The fire of the Lord of Light can't cook mortal dishes. They burn everything. The soil of the Lord of Light can't grow trees. They form mountains and rivers. The lightning of the Lord of Light can't be controlled by humans. They are born free. The ice of the sovereigns traversed the 10,000 icy rivers. Speaking up to this point, the beautiful Vice Dean suddenly paused. With a charming smile she said, "Oh, I almost forgot that all of you are rookies. It's useless to tell you all this. Alright, prepare yourselves and enter the black coffins prepared for you. Remember, you must give it your all and use your light divine energy to pierce through the darkness. The results of today's class will be recorded, and the first 10 participants to break through the black coffins will be rewarded with Radiant Origin Stones." Radiant Origin Stones. Everyone knows what they are, right? Everyone exclaimed in surprise again. The Radiant Primal Stone was one of the rarest treasures in the divine world. It was as precious as a godhead. The Radiant Primal Stone was formed in the core of a spirit mountain, and each spirit mountain was a plane. In other words, the Radiant Primal Stone was the crystallization of the entire plane's spirit energy. Moreover, the majority of planes needed thousands or even tens of thousands of years to form a Radiant Primal Stone. One could imagine how precious this small stone was. Radiant Origin Stone. A middle-aged participant with a short beard trembled as he said, "I must win the Radiant Primal Stone. This way my family will have a chance to rise again." Xian's delicate brows furrowed slightly. She had never heard of the Radiant Primal Stone. However, the Vice Dean's words just now had moved her. The light of the sovereigns could not be seen by mortals. Could burn everything. That's right, in Xian's understanding, it seemed that true light was the same. It was not salvation but destruction. Amidst the rustling sounds, countless guards rushed into the training field. Every 4 of them carried a huge black ice crystal. The ice crystal was about 5 meters long and 3 meters wide. It was big enough to hold a person. It looked like a simple and unadorned stone, but every cultivator could feel a surging power within the ice crystal that made them feel extremely uncomfortable. Darkness. If the nemesis of darkness was light, then the nemesis of light was also darkness. Since ancient times, countless light gods had died at the hands of the darkness god. Clang, clang, clang. Pieces of ice crystals were erected beside the participants. Xian also had a piece erected beside her. There was an undercurrent surging within the ice crystal. It was as if streams of dark water were flowing within the ice crystal. They swirled endlessly and it was a shocking sight to behold. On the stage, Li Fei smiled faintly. "I wish you all good luck. Now you can enter the ice crystal." The guards all used their weapons to stab into the ice crystal and forcefully pulled. Suddenly there was a creaking sound. The ice crystal actually had an opening. The cold wind whistled and the temperature of the entire training field suddenly dropped by more than 10 degrees. Frost lingered in the air. It was going to snow soon. Another instructor frowned and said, "What are you waiting for? Enter the black coffin immediately." These black coffins were not easy to obtain. Each one of them was obtained through our hard work. Don't waste them. You must know that if you can break out of the black coffin, your cultivation will also increase greatly. The black coffin can kill you, but it can also stimulate your potential. This is a game for the brave. Now is the time. Xian jumped into the black coffin. Her beautiful figure did not hesitate at all. Not far away, Terralyn was startled. She frowned slightly. This Xian was becoming more and more complicated. Was she looking forward to the cultivation after entering the black coffin? This kind of person was very scary. The group of participants entered the black coffin one after another. After they entered the black coffin, the Immortal Realm guards closed the black coffin's exit. If they wanted to come out, they had to break the black coffin. Swoosh. After entering the black coffin, Xian immediately felt as if she had sunk into dark sea water. She felt that she could not breathe. She held her breath and stopped breathing. Golden light energy revolved around her body, using it to attack the dark energy. However, it seemed that she had underestimated the dark energy. Wave after wave came, and every time the dark tide surged, there were actually 99 layers of waves. No wonder, she frowned. He finally understood why the black coffin was so precious. It contained the purest dark energy. It was comparable to the energy of a cultivator with the 99 levels of the law of darkness. Her first attempt at attacking the black coffin failed very quickly. She was exhausted, and the light divine power in her body seemed to be almost exhausted. Moreover, the dark energy continued to corrode her body. It wanted to occupy her body. Xian gritted her teeth. Her eyes stared at the deep sea of darkness. She clenched her fists and let out a cry. In an instant, a golden light covered her body. It was the divine wall. The power obtained from breaking through the 30th level of the grotto heaven was also one of her trump cards. Once the divine wall appeared, the dark energy could no longer invade her body. What she needed to do was to wait for her divine power to recover. Once she was full, she would start the next attack. In her EC, the young overgod lattice emitted a rich light, providing her with the power to rush out of this dark space. But soon Xian found that the dark energy around her seemed to have an inexplicable affinity with her. Her body even began to enjoy the dark energy. She was shocked and quickly understood that it was the Azura constitution. Azuras were originally assassins in the dark. Now that she was inside the black coffin, the surrounding dark energy seemed to recognize her as its master. This is great. She rejoiced inwardly and opened her eyes. Her eyes were covered in a layer of blood-red light, and her body was surrounded by a faint red light. She allowed the dark energy to flow into her body. Then she used her overgod divinity to convert the dark energy into light energy. As a result, the power of darkness in the black coffin became lesser and lesser, while the power of light became greater and greater. What's going on? On the instructor's stand, a bearded instructor looked at a black coffin in the distance. He saw that the light in the black coffin was faintly discernible. In contrast, other than the black coffins of Terralyn, Dora, and Lake, which were glowing with a faint golden light, the black coffins of the other participants were mostly dark. He said with a face full of suspicion, "Is that Xian?" "That's right." Li Fei squinted her beautiful eyes and smiled. The person chosen by Lady Xian is indeed not ordinary. Can she break out of the black coffin in an hour? If that's the case, she will break the record set by Lady Xian. Not necessarily. Li Fei smiled faintly. Watch carefully. The participants this time are getting more and more interesting. Chapter 792. 4 hours passed in the blink of an eye. The sun shone down on the western divinity realm. The black coffins were still standing there, glowing faintly. Many of the stronger participants had already expelled more than half of the divine darkness energy in their black coffins, especially those of Dora, Lake, and Terralyn. There wasn't much darkness energy left in their black coffins. The explosion sent shockwaves in all directions, causing the guards of the god realm to frown. The westernmost coffin exploded, and a beautiful woman bathed in golden light walked out of the darkness. It was Dora. Congratulations to Dora for being the first participant to break through. One of the instructors announced loudly. The recorder beside him wrote down Dora's name in the first place. The bearded instructor frowned. He didn't expect Dora to be the first to break through instead of Xian. Logically speaking, Xian's progress was much faster than Dora's. She should have broken through 2 hours ago, but she didn't seem to want to break through. She was still wasting time aimlessly. "What is Xian doing?" he asked in dissatisfaction. Li Fei couldn't help but smile. "Lord Kulin, why are you so anxious? Even Xian isn't anxious, so why are you so anxious?" Kulin clenched his fists. "I think you know better than me how precious a radiant primordial stone is. Every radiant primordial stone needs the Lord Ruler's permission to use it. Even you and Lady Xian have only used 5 radiant primordial stones in your lifetime. I hope such a precious radiant primordial stone will be used by the newcomer with the most potential." "I know what you mean. Don't worry, there will be results." Soon there were 2 more explosions. This time Terralyn and Lake broke through together. Congratulations to Terralyn for becoming the second participant to break through. Congratulations to Lake for becoming the third participant to break through. Terralyn and Lake's names also appeared on the top 10 list. When Terralyn, who was bathed in holy light, walked to the high platform, a group of instructors congratulated her, but Terralyn did not say a word and looked below the platform. The black coffin crystal that belonged to Xian was glowing with a golden light, and the divine power of light was about to burst out, but it did not break through. Only God knew what this girl from the banished land was thinking. Peng. With another explosion, the 4th place also appeared. It was Luo Pei from the Sea Breeze clan. Not long after, the 5th place also appeared. It was Zhou Xian from the Tianxi clan. "What is she waiting for?" Terralyn muttered indifferently. On the side, Dora's small body contained a powerful force. She narrowed her beautiful eyes and remained silent. She also knew that the most threatening people among the competitors were already standing on the stage, but only Xian had not appeared yet. She was the person selected by Zhou Xian, so she would never fall out of the top 10 so easily. Very soon the sounds of explosions rang out incessantly, and the 7th, 8th and 9th place were produced one after another. They were all talents selected by the major clans. These people had received strict education and training since they were young, and they never lacked cultivation materials. The demon spirit stones sent from the celestial pole continent could allow them to step into the divine realm very quickly. Furthermore, their outstanding bloodlines also gave them unique advantages, and their cultivation speed was not something that ordinary people could compare with. Still not coming out? Kulun clenched his fist and looked into the distance nervously. Inside the black coffin, Xian closed her eyes and naturally stretched her body. She had fallen asleep. The process of cultivation in the black coffin was simply a kind of enjoyment for her. Just when the dark power was almost exhausted, she opened her eyes and easily shattered the black coffin with a burst of power. Bang! Fragments scattered in all directions. She floated in the air like a fairy, stunning Lake, Zhou Xian and the other men. In terms of appearance, perhaps even beauties like Dora and Vice Dean Li Fei could not compare with this beauty from the land of exile. Only God knew how that filthy land gave birth to such a peerless beauty. Kulun smiled. Congratulations to Xian for becoming the 10th participant to break through. Xian landed on the ground and walked up the platform step by step. Li Fei also nodded with a smile. Not bad. In the group led by Li Fei, Xian was the most outstanding one. After all, Li Fei was the leader of the second group, so she naturally hoped that she could achieve outstanding results. Miss Xian, my name is Lake and I am from the Darklight clan. Lake was only in his 20s, so he could not help but be attracted to beauties of the same age. However, Xian looked at him blankly as if she did not know what he meant by these words. Lake was a little embarrassed and his outstretched hand hung in the air. To think that he was also an outstanding figure among the rising stars of the Western God realm. Whether it was in terms of cultivation or appearance, he was outstanding. Who knew how many women from various families had extended an olive branch to him? However, in front of Xian, Lake actually felt that he was practically nothing. Terralyn smiled faintly and did not say anything. However, this smile was like a slap to Lake's face and he immediately blushed. Li Fei saw this and did not say anything. At this moment, there was a sudden explosion in the distance and flames shot into the sky. What happened? Did someone break through again? Terralyn asked in surprise. No, not a breakthrough but a death. Li Fei sighed. This kind of thing was inevitable in every Chosen of God trial. Kulun shouted in a low voice, "Guards, extinguish the fire." A group of guards rushed forward and used their divine power to extinguish the fire. After extinguishing the fire, there was a charred corpse among the wreckage. He had failed to break through the dark energy and in the end he was swallowed by the darkness. This was the result of not being strong enough. An instructor shouted, "Participant from the All-Heaven realm Hu Lei has failed the trial and died. Choose a day to bury him." A few guards carried Hu Lei's corpse out as if it was nothing out of the ordinary. Xian silently looked into the distance and a trace of pity flashed in her eyes. Humph. This trace of pity did not escape the eyes of one person. It was Dora. She had been paying attention to Xian this whole time, and at some point she had already regarded Xian as her #1 threat. However, at this moment, Dora's eyes flashed with contempt. A person with pity did not deserve to be the final winner of the Chosen of God trial. The results appeared one after another and people continued to break through. But by the time it was almost evening, there were less than 50 people who had broken through. Li Fei seemed to be a little impatient. She sat up from the bench and said, "No more waiting. Let's eat. Distribute the radiant primordial stones to the top 10 participants." As Vice Dean, 10 immortals respectfully came forward with wooden boxes. The top 10 participants received one each, and Xian also received one for himself. Although he was only in 10th place, the reward was actually the same as for first place. The moment the wooden box was opened, a dense wave of light divine power rushed out. Inside the wooden box lay a stone that glowed with faint starlight. The radiant primordial stone was the crystallization of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. After being tempered, it would become a light-type energy crystal. With a little refining, one could absorb the light divine power within it. This was not something that ordinary people could obtain. All right, let's go eat. Li Fei looked at the sky and said, "It's getting dark. Leave 10 instructors behind to guard the other participants. The rest of you, go rest and cultivate the radiant primordial stones. The next class is in 3 days." Yes. Li Fei remained silent as she watched the group of participants being escorted away by the guards of the celestial realm. Vice Dean Kulin couldn't help but frown and said, "Do we need to send people to protect the top 10? That radiant primordial stone is a treasure that even the great clans can't get their hands on. I think there will definitely be people who covet these radiant primordial stones." "No need." Li Fei's beautiful eyes revealed a cold light and said, "The Western Heaven Realm has always been a place where strength speaks. If you can't even protect your own spoils of war, then you don't have the right to continue staying in the Western Heaven Realm to participate in the God's chosen trial." Yes, Vice Dean is right. Kulin took a deep breath and said, "I understand." Li Fei laughed. "You're just too compassionate. After cultivating with the Lord Sovereign for so many years, you haven't learned anything but compassion." "Ha, Lord Ruler, is he compassionate?" "True, don't say such things. Otherwise you will be turned into ashes in minutes. I can't protect you. Even Li Fei is afraid of someone, ha. Sai, I really don't know what to do with you. Immediately report to Lord Xian about today's situation and tell her everything about Xin in detail." Yes, this subordinate will do it now. Xin held the wooden box. She cherished this radiant primordial stone very much. This kind of treasure could only be found by chance. Moreover, Xin also faintly felt that there was still endless potential in her body that had yet to be stimulated. It was as if she was sealed and her strength was in the recovery stage. And this radiant primordial stone would undoubtedly speed up her recovery process. She ate a lot of food during dinner. She ate a roasted chicken and drank half a pot of soup by herself. The strength in her body seemed to have been exhausted during cultivation. After eating, everyone gradually dispersed. Xin still held her wooden box and walked out of the dining hall. The path outside was pitch black and she couldn't even see her fingers in front of her. Night had fallen. She carefully walked on the path. It was about 3 kilometers from here to the dormitory, but she seemed to have a feeling of unease in her heart. A mortal's unease might be due to psychological reasons, but a god's unease was destined to be a prophecy. "Stop." A voice came from the dark forest of gods. 3 black figures slowly walked out. Their faces couldn't be seen clearly, but from their voices, it was clear that they were participants. What should come had come. "What do you want?" Xin said calmly. "Yes, haha." The black figure at the front said, "You are just a bug in the banished land. Although you are beautiful, you have no right to have the radiant primordial stone. Immediately hand over the radiant primordial stone or else die." Chapter 793. Really? The girl smiled beautifully. "If I don't hand over the light raw stone, will you really kill me?" "That's right." The leading participant sneered, "You are only one person. Even if you have the cultivation of the 30th heaven, you are only SOSO. There are 3 of us and each of us is above the 20th heaven. Killing you is as easy as flipping our hands. Since you want it, I will give it to you." The girl smiled and threw the wooden box into the air. The light raw stone. The leading contestant was full of excitement. He flew over and held the wooden box with both hands. However, the moment he touched the wooden box, he felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. He saw a blade piercing through his abdomen. The blade was surrounded by starlight. It was very mysterious. "This sword is so beautiful." This was his last thought before he died. "Oh my god, this B*TVH killed Master Duke. Kill her." The other 2 contestants rushed over together. They held the divine power of light in their hands. 2 beams of light penetrated through the attack. However, Xin was faster. A golden crystal appeared around the blade. It whistled through the air, ignoring the attacks of the 2 contestants. Bang! Bang! The light energy bombarded her chest, but it was blocked by the divine wall. "Oh my god, she has a godly wall. You have to..." Before the contestant could finish his sentence, his throat was pierced by the golden crystal. His divine power strong wall was useless against the celestial dragon crystal. As Xian spun around, a golden airwave rippled out and 3 celestial dragon crystals shot out at lightning speed. Puff, puff, puff. The last participant's eyes were wide open in a daze as he knelt on the ground with a thud. There were 3 horrifying bloody holes in his chest. This was the difference in strength. 3 people ganged up on one person, but they were all killed in less than half a minute. Xian didn't say anything. She picked up the wooden box from the grass and silently disappeared into the divine forest. Not long after, they would be able to see the lights of the dormitory area. There were a few divine realm guards and 2 instructors standing guard there. It was safe. "Xian, you're back?" One of the instructors recognized her. After all, there weren't many candidates who were beautiful and powerful. Moreover, everyone knew that Xian's recommendation was the legendary commander-level seraph Xian. She was one of the gods who stood at the top of the Western Divine Realm. "Yes, instructor." Xian turned around and entered the dormitory. In the dormitory, Terralyn was already cultivating. She was lying on the bed, holding a radiant ore in her hand. The light from the ore was faintly discernible, and she was constantly absorbing it. Such a big radiant raw stone was enough for her to absorb for about 3 days. This was also the reason why Li Fei took 3 days off. The Chosen of God trial was called the Selection of Talents, but everyone knew that it was only for the survival of the fittest to determine the final 10, which were also the strongest 10. Once the list of 10 appeared, they would definitely be entrusted with heavy responsibilities. Slowly sitting on the bed, Xian also began to refine the radiant raw stone. The other girls in the dormitory could only stare in envy. This was the dormitory and no one dared to act recklessly. Otherwise, the instructor's pointer would be enough to tear them apart. Higher up in the trial field, a spirit mountain was hidden in the clouds. There were many palaces on the spirit mountain. This was the temple of the Western Divine Realm, and also the residence of the ruler, Claude. The ruler of the Western God Realm stood with his back to the crowd beneath a small, bleak window. He wore a black cloak that revealed the golden armor on his shoulders. His long hair had already turned completely white, but his voice clearly did not sound old. "Everyone retreat. Xian and Eva stay," he said softly. "Yes." The gods all retreated, including Li Fei, Kulun, Merlin and the others. When all the gods had retreated from the temple, only the 3 of them were left. "The progress of the Chosen of God trial is not bad, right?" Claude asked calmly without turning his back to the 2 blazing angels. "Yes." Xian nodded and said respectfully, "Ruler, more than 50 excellent participants have been selected this afternoon. They all have great potential and are rare talents. True geniuses are 1 in 10,000. Claude smiled faintly. "How is the girl who returned from the banished lands?" "Xian is the 10th participant to break through the black coffin." "Oh, her name is Xian? You must have given her that name." Yes, ruler." "Have you figured out her identity?" Claude asked. "No, but we can confirm that she is an Azura, and possesses a powerful dark energy as well as an even more powerful light energy. Her divine deity has been damaged before and is currently turbid and unclear. This subordinate cannot see the grade of her divine deity, but it should be the immortal forging deity. As long as we summon the law spirit bead, I believe that she has the potential to become a new blazing angel." "Blazing angel?" Claude suddenly smiled and said coldly, "Blazing angel is one of the rulers of the Western Divine Realm. This title only needs 2 people. There is no need for a third. Eva, what do you think?" The blonde beauty smiled. "Ruler is wise." Xian was startled. "Then how does Lord Ruler plan to use Xian?" "She is an exiled person from the exiled land, a fallen god. She is destined not to be on the same level as us in the Western Divine Realm." Claude laughed coldly. "What's more, she has the dark power of Ashura in her body, which makes it even more impossible for her to become a person of the God realm. So, no matter what the final result of the Chosen One trial is, she must leave the Western Divine Realm." "But ruler," Xian was startled. She knelt on one knee and said sincerely, You want to protect her, Xian?" "Yes." Xian said quietly, "I used my divine strategy to see through her memories. She has experienced a lot, wandering from place to place, going through countless hardships. I seem to see myself from tens of thousands of years ago in her, so..." Xian asks Lord Ruler to pardon Xian. "I really want a sister like her." "Forget it," Claude said indifferently. "It's fine if you want to protect her, but I have to give face to the blazing angels. However, all the dark power in her body must be removed. The Western divine realm only needs the inheritors of the law of light, not the filthy possessors of the law of darkness. Yes, this subordinate understands. But how can we get rid of the dark power? Ha ha ha. Claude laughed, his back still facing the two blazing angels. Have you forgotten about the lost paradise? Lost paradise? Xian shuddered. Does ruler want to use the lost paradise to cleanse Xian's body of the Shura power? That's right. Claude said indifferently, it's useless to keep the lost paradise in the divine palace. It's better to use the lost paradise's illusory purgatory to cleanse the dark power in her body. But... Xian gritted her teeth. But no one who has entered the lost paradise for hundreds of thousands of years has ever come out alive. The lost paradise is just a curse, a dead place full of illusions and curses. How can we? Xian. Claude's voice became slightly stern. Don't forget your identity. You are a blazing angel, one of the rulers of the divine realm. You weren't like this in the past. There's a limit to how much mercy you can show to a person. This subordinate understands. Xian murmured. Then when the trial is over, send her into the lost paradise. You two can leave as well. Yes. Xian and Eva retreated. The moment they stepped out of the hall, Eva couldn't help but frown. Sister Hyan, how can you be so reckless? You actually offended Lord Ruler for a woman from the banished land. It's fortunate that Lord Ruler has a good temper today. Otherwise you would definitely be punished. Under the starlight, Eva's blonde hair fluttered in the wind. Her exquisite and beautiful face was full of reproach. I can't describe that feeling. Xian sighed and slowly walked down the steps, saying, from the first time I saw her, I was very distressed by everything she had encountered. I can't read her past, but I know that she must have suffered a lot. She has a kind of power that makes people want to get close to her, even want to. Eva's eyes widened. Even what? To submit. What? Eva was so frightened that she took several steps back. Are you crazy? Sister Hyan, you are a blazing angel. Why would you feel reverence for someone from the banished land? I really can't imagine. Not really. I feel very little reverence, more like closeness. Xian bit her red lips. I don't know what's wrong with me. My entire body seems to be in a mess. Sigh. Eva sighed. It's probably because you haven't had your period for a long time after stepping into the 99th level of the grotto heaven. You? Xian couldn't help but blush. Why are you talking about this? Don't forget that you are a blazing angel. Don't be so improper. Hee hee. Eva no longer had the dignity of a half-blazing angel. She held Xian's arm and laughed. The god realm doesn't prohibit relationships between men and women. Even the Lord Ruler tacitly agrees. Every year, many radiant angels and strength angels descend to find handsome men to relieve their loneliness. Don't tell me. Sister Hyan, don't you want to? Xian's eyes dimmed. Men are troublesome. You're so serious. Eva chuckled. It's been a long time since we went to the god realm. After the chosen god trial, let's find a plane and go sightseeing. How about it? Let's talk about it after Xian passes the lost paradise. Otherwise, I won't be in the mood. All right then. Don't worry. I will put in a good word for Xian to the Lord Ruler. Early in the morning, an alarm sounded in the training field. An instructor shouted from outside the dormitory area. Duo Ku and the other two were killed last night on a forest path. Participants, please pay attention to your safety. Duo Ku and the other two were killed last night on a forest path. Participants, please pay attention to your safety. It seemed like he was only warning everyone to pay attention to their safety, but not to pursue the matter. Chapter 794. In the Shattered Cauldron Realm, spring snow swept across the land. The entire Lingdong province was shrouded in a curtain of snow. The northern wind whistled and danced, bringing with it the fluttering snow that hit the sturdy newly built city walls of Winter Frost City. Tuck, tuck, tuck. The sound of hooves could be heard in the curtain of snow. A man raised the purple Yinghua flag and said loudly, "The 1st and 2nd battalions of the Imperial Guards have arrived and requested to enter Winter Frost City. This is our vanguard token." A small door was opened under the city and the token was accepted. Soon after, the door slowly opened and cavalrymen wrapped in leather robes appeared from the falling snow and entered the city. Above the city wall, the veteran Zhou Xian was smoking a pipe. He tilted his head and tilted the pipe so that it wouldn't be extinguished by the falling snow. As he smoked, clouds of smoke drifted in the air and mixed with the snow. Sergeant, this is the 7th day. There are troops of the Empire entering Winter Frost City every day. Is there really going to be a war? A new recruit rubbed his hands and looked up at the sky. Large flakes of snow fell on his face. He couldn't help but complain, what kind of weather is this? Why is it snowing so heavily? I wonder how many crops will be frozen to death. Zhou Xian smiled, and the wrinkles on his face moved up and down along with his smile. He said, I don't know if a war will break out, but the news regarding the celestial pole continent has been spreading like wildfire. Who doesn't know that there's another continent on the other side of the Eastern Sea? There are 3 powerful countries on that continent and the enemy is strong while we're weak. I believe that Prince Xian and Prince Zhong must have mobilized their armies into Winterfrost City to fend off the enemy. The young recruit looked excited. He sat up and said, Sergeant, I heard that the Zetian Palace wants to make our Winterfrost City the eastern capital. Is it true? It's true. Then if the eastern capital is made, we, the soldiers who have been guarding Winterfrost City for 5 years, should be able to get some benefits. What benefits can there be? At most you will get 3 to 5 copper coins more every month. How much more do you think you can get? Zhou Xian narrowed his eyes and said, but the eastern capital is only used to defend against the enemy. If I have a choice, I'd rather go back to Lanyan City and guard the warehouse outside the city. The new recruit was stunned. But at least that way we will be one step closer to death. The old recruit continued smoking. It was at this moment a soldier's shout came from somewhere in the inner city. Duke Wei is here to patrol the garrison. The veteran hurriedly patted the tobacco leaves in his tobacco pot onto the snowy ground. He led a group of soldiers to stand up with cold halberds in their hands. Each of them puffed out their chests and stood ramrod straight. Snow fell on their helmets and shoulders, but no one moved an inch. Duke Wuxia was the commander of the entire Dragon Courage Battalion and the highest general who defeated the demons in the end. In the hearts of the Empire's soldiers, this Duke Wei had long since become a heroic existence. On. Amidst the sound of stepping on snow, a group of people walked over from the snow screen in the distance. The person wearing the Duke's cloak was Wei Chou, and behind him was a group of vice commanders and captains. Greetings, Commander. The soldiers all knelt on one knee. Since the main force of the Longdan army camp was transferred back from the 8 wastelands, the defense of Winterfrost City was done by the Longdan army camp. This was also the intention of Feng Jixing and Tang Xiaoxi. Wei Chou put his hand on the hilt of the sword on his waist and nodded to the soldiers. Rise. Everyone stood up. Wei Chou breathed out hot air, looked at everyone's frozen red faces, frowned and said, Ah Shui, inform the military supplies department for every soldier defending the city, give them an extra cotton coat. Yes, Commander. Situ Shui nodded. At the side, Situ Sen's lips curled up. He looked outside the city and said, I wonder when His Highness Prince Qin will return. Recently, ships from the celestial pole continent have been approaching the coast, but His Highness still hasn't appeared. Even Prince Xian, Prince Zhong and Princess Xi have come to Winterfrost City, but he still hasn't returned. I really don't know how long he will delay. Wei Chou smiled. His Highness naturally has his reasons for staying in the celestial pole continent. General Sun, there's no need to be anxious. Recently, ships from the celestial pole continent have been appearing more and more frequently. I think His Highness should be returning soon. Situ Shui frowned and said, It's just that they're all merchant ships, using the pretense of coming to our port to do business. Maybe they're just a group of spies. Wei Chou nodded. All the foreign merchant ships that approach the Empire's port are detained. We'd rather spend food to feed these merchants than let them send back information about our garrison. In my opinion, why don't we? Situ Sin made a chopping gesture and said, Let's just chop them down. It's better to save food for ourselves. It's already the beginning of spring and it's still snowing. It's destined that the harvest won't be too good. We don't know how long this war will last. Wei Chou smiled and shook his head. That won't do. We haven't really declared war with the celestial pole continent yet. If we kill their merchants, it'll be easy for them to gossip. It's better to be steady and wait for His Highness to return from the celestial pole continent before making a decision. Then are we just going to do nothing now? Situ Sin clenched his teeth. He was a typical pro-war person. Bai Yin also said, that's right. We can't just sit by and do nothing. We have to have a countermeasure. I know. Wei Chou muttered to himself for a moment before saying, Prince Xen Feng Jixing said yesterday that we should send out small-scale warships to set up our maritime defense line. Once foreign merchant ships come, we'll immediately shoot back with arrows. If the warning is ineffective, we'll just blast them with the demonic crystal cannons. These are what Feng Jixing said after he was drunk. What do you guys think? His Highness Prince Xen might have had too much to drink. Situ Shui smiled. Wouldn't it give the Celestial Pole continent an even greater reason to start a war with the Celestial Pole continent? Moreover, our weapons, warships and provisions aren't fully prepared yet. If we were to start a war in a hurry, it'll probably be very disadvantageous for us. After all, there are over 1,000 Dragon Knights in the Celestial Pole continent. If over 1,000 Dragon Knights were to launch an attack from the air, there's no way we'll be able to fend them off. That's right. We still need more time. Wei Chou looked at the snow in the east with a clear gaze and said, this is especially so for the warships. The imperial capital's newly built flying ships are still on the Daojiang River and have yet to arrive. We'll have to wait for close to a month before we start a war. Otherwise, we'll definitely face a crushing defeat. He raised his head to look at the sky, sighed and said, this snow is too vicious. Our empire's army isn't good at fighting in the snow, especially the demonic crystal cannons. The firing mechanism of the energy crystals is easily affected by the accumulated snow, causing it to lose its effectiveness. When His Highness Prince Qin was around, the demonic crystal cannons would always be used in sunny weather. With the current weather, we should try our best to avoid a battle. That does seem to be the case. Situ Sin nodded, reached out to pat Wei Chou's shoulder and said, how's your cultivation of that ghost god divinity that His Excellency gave you before he left? I've made some progress. Wei Chou smiled. Come, let us take a look. Wei Chou walked to the wall, away from the line of sight of a group of soldiers, and suddenly opened his palm. Instantly, a faint purple light rose from his palm, filled with dense ghost god energy. This was the energy that he had absorbed from the ghost god divinity. Back then, Lin Muyu had used the treasure cauldron to help him cultivate the ghost god divinity. And now Wei Chou had cultivated the ghost god energy to 10 times its original strength. Oh my, Situ Sin was speechless and he said, your cultivation is not bad. You're already in the Holy King realm, right? Wei Chou nodded. After cultivating the ghost god energy, my cultivation has improved by leaps and bounds, and now I'm at the peak of the Holy King realm. Moreover, Lord Chu Chu often teaches me, so with Princess Xi's help in guiding and refining my ghost god energy, I should be able to step into the godly state within half a year. Situ Sin took a deep breath and he said, she's practically their own child, why don't I see them pointing at me? Wei Chou smiled. Princess, she said that she wants to point at you, but you're cultivating the same astral tactics as Lord Chu Chu and she knows nothing about it, so it's better to wait for Lord Chu Chu to come back. And that's the only way. At this moment, from the east of the city, another figure walked over. It was a man in a dark green cloak. Winterfrost City had been under martial law for a long time, and during the period when the Imperial Army was stationed here, no one was allowed to enter or leave the city, be it merchants or pedestrians. The appearance of this man surprised the soldiers on the city wall. Who is it? Zhou Han, the veteran soldier, raised his hands and shouted at the man in the distance. The man did not speak but continued to walk toward the city gate. Archers! Zhou Han shouted, Winterfrost City has been under martial law, and no one is allowed to enter before 4 months. Hurry up and leave, if you don't speak we'll shoot you. The person walked in the snow, his footsteps unsteady. After coming to a stop, he lifted the furry cloak on his head, revealing a handsome face. He looked up at the people on the city wall, smiled and said, is there anyone in the Longdan army camp who doesn't know me? Zhou Han trembled. King Qing. What? Wei Chou, Situ Sin, Situ Shui, and Bai Yin ran to the edge of the battlement. Looking down, the person standing in the snow was none other than Lin Muyu. It's really Lord Chu Chu. Pa, Lord Chu Chu is back. The 4 of them rushed down from the city wall almost at the same time. Originally, the 4 of them were walking side by side, but when they got close to Lin Muyu, the 3 of them stopped and knelt on one knee, Greetings, Your Highness. Only Situ Shui threw herself into Lin Muyu's arms, buried her face in his weathered neck and smiled. Your Highness, you're finally back. Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed. Ah Shui, long time no see. Blushing, Situ Shui stepped back and knelt on one knee beside her brother. Greetings, Your Highness, Situ Shui. Get up, all of you. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. I heard that Brother Feng, Yan and Xianxia are all in Winterfrost City? Yes. Wei Chou nodded. The Empire has decided to set the eastern capital at Winterfrost City, so everyone is here. Great, bring me to them. Yes. Chapter 795. The guards brought over a warhorse and Lin Muyu got on it. She entered Winterfrost City under the escort of Situ Sin, Wei Chou and the others. The snow was falling like feathers and there were very few people on the streets. Everyone was very quiet. Other than the sound of the horses' hooves and the snow falling on the cloaks, there were almost no other sounds. Lin Muyu looked at the two sides of the street. The doors of the noodle shops were tightly shut, and the taverns were all closed for business. Everything seemed to be different from before. From afar she could see groups of Longdan army camp patrolling the city with long spears in their hands. What's going on? He asked. Wei Chou knew what he wanted to ask. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, ever since the decision was made to make Winterfrost City the eastern capital, the Empire's army has moved into Winterfrost City in large numbers. Now there are 1 million citizens in Winterfrost City, and the army has exceeded 400,000 soldiers. Therefore, in order to save on food, Prince Xen Feng Jixing ordered the closure of the taverns, restaurants and the like. In order to prepare for war, everyone in the city has to live frugally. Oh, Lin Muyu nodded and said, that's not wrong. It's just that the people in the city are going to suffer. There's nothing we can do about it. Wei Chou looked at the sky and said, this snow is like a nightmare catching us off guard. Most of the rations in various places have been blocked by the snow, and very soon, our rations will be very tight. We can only hope that this snow will stop soon. However, even if the snow stops after the snow melts, the ground in Lingdong province will be muddy, and it will be very difficult for the vehicles transporting rations to pass through. Sigh. Big Brother Feng, Xiaoxi and Chu are all at the Divine Realm. Why don't they use the ability to summon wind and rain to stop this snow? General Feng hasn't obtained this ability yet. Princess She has the fire laws and tried once but failed. Chu isn't willing to do things that go against the laws of nature, so it's fine. Let me handle this. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and the sovereign lattice in his eye trembled slightly. Rays of golden light enveloped his body, and he suddenly raised his hand and pointed to the sky. With a whoosh, an ice elemental law bead shot into the sky, and the golden light shot into the dark clouds like a sharp arrow. The next moment, a golden wave rushed down from the sky. The dark clouds parted, and a brilliant ray of sunlight shone on the ground. Immediately afterward, the heavy snow stopped. The dark clouds in the sky seemed to have been cut open, and they continued to spread and recede. Before long, the whole of Winterfrost City was bathed in the setting sun. Oh my God! Is this the power of a god? Situ Sin was dumbfounded. The residents on both sides of the road also walked out of their houses and looked at the changes in the sky in astonishment. This was a spectacle they had never seen in their lives. Lin Muyu's divine power was like a tinder, burning away the clouds like black cloth, and returning the sky to a cloudless sky. Moreover, the tinder did not stop, and it continued to spread around Winterfrost City. Perhaps half of Winter Ridge Province would be sunny again? Bam! Papa! A few rays of purple light bloomed on the snowy ground at the side. It was the effect of breaking through the void. Lin Muyu did not even need to think to know who it was. She must have activated her divine power and alerted the few deity-level experts in the city. He dismounted from the horse, and a beautiful figure descended from the space crack not far ahead. It was Tang Xiaoxi. Moo. She was overjoyed and sprinted towards Lin Muyu. However, she stopped when she was less than 2 meters away from Lin Muyu. Every day she would miss Lin Muyu so much that she was at a loss as to what to do when they were about to meet. Lin Muyu opened her arms and hugged Tang Xiaoxi tightly. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were red. She didn't need to say anything. Cough cough. Behind her, Feng Jixing and Ouyang Yan coughed. Lin Muyu let go of Tang Xiaoxi and turned around with a smile. Brother Feng, Ouyang. Ouyang Yan chuckled. Lord Chu Chu and Miss Chu Yao asked us to come and welcome you. Did you dispel the snow just now? Feng Jixing asked. Yes. Lin Muyu glanced at Feng Jixing and immediately knew his current cultivation. She smiled and said, "Congratulations to Brother Feng for stepping into the 17th level of Heavenly Abode." "Ah, what are you talking about?" Feng Jixing stepped forward and patted Lin Muyu's arm. "Sco. Good wine and delicious food have been prepared for you. When we go back, let's drink until we are drunk. Also, tell us in detail about the Celestial Pole continent." "Yes." The group passed through a few streets. The Eastern Capital Palace wasn't built on King Qin's residence. According to Feng Jixing and Tang Xiaoxi's wishes, King Qin's residence was Lin Muyu's residence and no one had touched it. Therefore, the Eastern Capital Palace was built on top of a wealthy merchant's residence. This residence spanned nearly 3 miles and was considered very luxurious. With a little renovation, it could be used as a temporary Eastern Capital Palace. In reality, its most important function was to serve as the highest military command center of the Great Qin Empire. The palace was a little shabby. One of the pavilions had even collapsed due to the heavy snow. A group of soldiers were hurriedly cleaning it. After being separated for so long, Chu Yao's complexion seemed even better than before. As her cultivation base rose, her temperament became more elegant. She was wearing the robes of the Spirit Medicine Department's head attendant, looking extremely beautiful. "Sister Chu Yao." Lin Muyu smiled brightly. Chu Yao also chuckled. "Ah, you're finally back. If you didn't come back, someone of ours would miss you so much that he would tear the tiles off the roof." "Ah? What do you think?" Tang Xiaoxi's face was already red. She pouted. "Sister Chu Yao only knows how to make fun of me." Lin Muyu smiled. She stepped forward and bowed to Chu Chu. "Lin Muyu pays respect to teacher. No need to be so polite." Chu Chu stroked his beard and smiled. You are the Qin Emperor and I am just an old man who has nothing to do. You don't have to bow to me. Let's go in. It's too cold outside." The main hall was the original Master's Hall and it was considered quite big. However, it was clearly a little shabby to be used as the Empire's highest command center's meeting hall. After all, there were over 100 people who were commanders and captaincy-level commanders. Such a place was obviously too crowded. Lin Muyu knew that everyone had put in a lot of effort. She held onto Tang Xiaoxi's soft and warm hand and walked in. She asked gently, "Xiaoxi, how many people are staying in this temporary imperial residence?" "So many people." Tang Xiaoxi blinked and said, "Prince Exin, Prince Zhongmi and the commanders of all the major armies are staying here. There are over 70 rooms in the backyard of this residence." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. "You and Sister Chu Yao can stay with me in Prince Qin's residence. It's more comfortable there and it's not far." Tang Xiaoxi's face was red. She said gently, "All right." Citizen grinned. "I want to stay too. Go and scram back to the barracks." "Yes, Your Highness. I will do as you say." Everyone burst into laughter. The banquet was quite sumptuous and there weren't many people. The 3 kings had gathered but it wasn't too extravagant. It was just a group of people sitting around a table. After 3 rounds of wine, Feng Jixing said, "All right, you can tell us about the Celestial Pole continent." Lin Muyu nodded. The Celestial Pole continent is divided into 3 great empires. Among them, the Tianji Empire has the strongest military, the Celestial Empire has the most population, and the Blackstone Empire is the weakest. The 3 empires keep each other in check. The Tianji Empire and the Celestial Empire have an old feud, while the Blackstone Empire is content in its own corner. Therefore, the main thing I've been doing in the Celestial Pole continent during this period of time is to sow discord between the Tianji Empire and the Celestial Empire. As long as the Celestial Empire keeps in check, the Tianji Empire won't send all of its military forces to our Shattered Cauldron realm. If the Tianji Empire only sends out less than half of its military forces, we'll still have a chance. What about the Blackstone Empire? Feng Jixing pondered deeply for a moment. In the recent half a month, we've seen many traces of the Darkstone Empire's ships in the coastal area of our east coast. They seem to be even more anxious about this war than the Tianji Empire. Lin Muyu nodded. The Blackstone Empire has a small population and its army is very small. The entire country tends to be militaristic. They really need a war to expand their territory. What is the strength of the Blackstone Empire? Asked Weicho. Lin Muyu nodded and looked at Silver Sire on the table, saying, although the Blackstone Empire is the weakest of the three empires, it also has 500,000 regular troops, more than 100 dragon knights and more than 20,000 beast riders. In addition, the Thunder Flame sect, which they regard as a holy sect, also has more than 50,000 disciples. Its strength cannot be underestimated. Besides that, the Darkstone Empire advocates martial strength, and if nothing unexpected happens, their emperor will surely recruit mercenary groups to serve the empire. At that time, I'm afraid it won't just be 500,000 regular troops that we're facing. Everyone was dumbfounded. Chu Chu muttered to himself, looks like our great Qin won't be able to avoid this calamity no matter what. Yeah, I didn't think about hiding. Lin Muyu looked at a group of friends, subordinates and relatives and said, if they want to fight, we will fight. We can't be weak in this war. We can't retreat. Otherwise we will be defeated again and again. Feng Jixing and Qin Yan nodded at the same time. Basically, the three kings had reached a consensus at this point. How is the distribution of our troops? Asked Lin Muyu. Feng Jixing said, there are close to 350,000 soldiers stationed in the city of Winterfrost. In addition, there are 100,000 soldiers stationed in the Tongtian province and Lingdong province. There are close to 400,000 soldiers stationed in the coastal towns of the Tongtian province and Lingdong province. Together with the soldiers from the Lingkong province, we will be deploying close to 1 million soldiers. Also, Princess Xi has already ordered for the demons in the Endless Forest to be mobilized. There should be close to 200,000 demons assisting in the battle. Lin Muyu nodded. Xiaoxi, come with me to the east coast tomorrow to patrol. Maybe the Tianji Empire will make a move in advance. Also, Lin Muyu glanced at everyone and said, Chu brother Feng, Yen sister Chu Yao, Ouyang Wei Chou and Situ Sin, follow me back to King Qin's mansion after the dinner. I have one more thing to say. Chapter 796. Nighttime King Qin's Manor. Crash. Lin Muyu poured the pile of demon spirit stones in her Qinkuan bag onto the white cloth on the table. Instantly, it shone brightly, and the unique radiance of demon spirit stones flickered in the room. This is... Feng Jixing was stunned. This is called demon spirit stones. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment, sorted out her thoughts and explained, there are spirit beasts in the Shattered Cauldron Realm continent that produce spirit stones and wild beast spirits to help cultivators increase their cultivation. In the Celestial Pole continent, there are not only spirit beasts, but also demon spirits. The demon spirits absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and transform it into demonic energy, which then produces demon spirit stones. The great difference between demon spirit stones and spirit stones is that spirit stones can only absorb a large amount of energy when a cultivator is breaking through, but demon spirit stones don't have such a restriction. One can refine demon spirit stones at any time and absorb the spiritual energy within to cultivate. This is also the reason why the number of deity realm experts in the Celestial Pole continent is tens of times more than ours. Are demon spirit stones really so magical? Feng Jixing picked up a demon spirit stone and stared at it with his eyes wide open. Yes. Lin Muyu continued, demon spirit stones are very rare. In the three empires of the Celestial Pole continent, it's a treasure that can't be bought or sold. Only those nobles have the opportunity to refine demon spirit stones. Then how did you get such a large pile of demon spirit stones? Asked Tang Xiaoxi. Lin Muyu blushed. It's a long story. In short, I got so much by deceiving and abducting. Then I took away the treasures in the Pishio mercenary group's lair and got all the demon spirit stones. As he spoke, he shook his Qinkuan bag again, scattering the demon spirit stones all over the table. As he spoke, he shook his cosmos sack and scattered the demon spirit stones all over the table. He said, look, every demon spirit stone is different. They are classified according to the color. Only a demon spirit stone with one color is a first-class demon spirit stone, which can only be produced by a demon emperor. Don't look, there aren't any here. I am not a match for a demon emperor at all. 2 colors are Demon King's demon spirit stones. There are few here. 3 colors are Demon Venerable, 3rd class is Demon Spirit Stone, and so on. As he spoke, Lin Muyu held up a handful of demon spirit stones and said to Chu Chu, Chu, give it a try. The demon spirit stones are very powerful and can make your cultivation advance by leaps and bounds. Chu muttered, You guys use it. Grandpa's law of cultivation is the natural law of heaven. If it's not necessary, I won't kill. This kind of demon spirit stone is condensed in the body of a spirit beast. Grandpa has his own law of heaven. Don't worry about me. Lin Muyu didn't force him. Chu's personality had always been like this, but it was also because of this personality that Chu's cultivation had always been one step faster than others. Wei Chou was a little excited. Madam, are you saying that everyone who came here today has a share of demon spirit stones? Lin Muyu nodded and said, There are a total of 3 Demon King demon spirit stones. There are also a few demon venerable demon spirit stones. Most of them are 4th class and 5th class demon spirit stones. Take as you see fit. Don't be too greedy. After refining 1 demon spirit stone, it usually takes half a month to completely absorb and refine the new energy. So taking more is useless. Thank you, madam. Wei Chou smiled. Prince Exon should take it first. I take it first? Feng Jixing was a little excited. If I take too much, don't say that I'm greedy. Feng Jixing indeed didn't take much. He only took 1 Demon King Demon Spirit Stone, 1 Demon Venerable Demon Spirit Stone, and a few 4th class Demon Spirit Stones. After that it was Tang Xiaoxi's turn to choose. He took about the same amount as Feng Jixing. After that it was Qin Yan, Chuyao, Ouyang Yan, Wei Chou, Situ Sin and the others. Even Situ Shui was given a few 5th class Demon Spirit Stones. With her cultivation level, Demon Spirit Stones were very beneficial to her. After everyone had finished distributing the Demon Spirit Stones, Lin Muyu kept the remaining Demon Spirit Stones. These Demon Spirit Stones could be used for cultivation. Everyone don't go back tonight. Lin Muyu said, I have already instructed the servants to prepare the rooms. You guys can stay in Prince Qin's mansion. It will also be good for you guys to compare notes on the effects and process of refining Demon Spirit Stones. General Sun, I still have to check on your astral arts cultivation progress. Yes, thank you, madam. Situ Sun was very excited. Whether he could step into the god state or not, it would depend on how much effort Lin Muyu would spend to nurture him. At night, everyone went back to their respective rooms to refine Demon Spirit Stones. Lin Muyu brought Tang Xiaoxi along to watch Situ Sun practice the astral arts in the martial arts hall. Situ Sun's talent was very high. He only needed a few words from Lin Muyu to understand. Mu, what's going on with the Pishio mercenary group? Tang Xiaoxi suddenly asked while both of them were leaning against the railing. It's one of the 3 big mercenary groups of the Blackstone Empire. I killed their leader and made Lu Bai the leader. Si Kongyao stayed behind to assist him. I rebuilt the Pishio mercenary group and used it as a spy that we left in the Celestial Pole continent. Oh right, I changed the name of the group. It's not called the Pishio mercenary group anymore. It's called the Bai Zhe mercenary group. Why? The name sounds nice. Oh okay. Tang Xiaoxi was silent. Xiaoxi, what's wrong? Lin Muyu saw that she was a little abnormal. That. Tang Xiaoxi stammered for a long time before asking, Si Kongyao, you wouldn't. Lin Muyu suddenly understood. She couldn't help but hold her little hand and said, What are you thinking? Si Kongyao and I are just siblings. It's not like what you're thinking. I swear that in this life, there are only 2 people who can really make me fall in love. One is you and the other is Xiaoyin. If there's a 3rd person, then curse me. Curse what? Tang Xiaoxi tilted her head and smiled lightly. Curse me to be impotent for the rest of my life. Don't. Tang Xiaoxi pouted. That won't do me any good. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Okay, let's get down to business. I still have a small gift for you. What is it? Lin Muyu reached into her arms and took out a small cloth bag. After opening it, she saw a complete godhead emitting a faint luster. Wow, a complete godhead of the law of fire? Yes, this is LV Feng's godhead. He failed to assassinate Lu Bai and was killed by me. Although this godhead is just a mortal's godhead, its cultivation is very high. It must be of great benefit to Xiaoxi's cultivation. You should refine it tonight with a venerable demon spirit stone to replenish your strength. At least you can break through to the next cave heaven. Really? I won't lie to you. You'll know after you try. Tang Xiaoxi was overjoyed and threw herself into Lin Muyu's arms. Hey, not far away, Situ Sun grinned and said, Don't just think about love. Your Highness, can you check if there are any other flaws in my star tactics so that I can correct them? Basically, they are all flaws. Lin Muyu said, General Sun, don't sleep tonight. Stay in the courtyard and watch the moonlight. Why? What did I do wrong? Your Highness wants to torture me like this. Idiot, I asked you to watch the moonlight in the courtyard because the moonlight contains the power of Yin. If you can see through the coldness in the moonlight and starlight and use it for your own use, you will naturally be able to cultivate the fifth heaven of the star tactics, Jade Snow Frost. Ah. Citizen was overjoyed. Your Highness, are you saying that I have a chance to master the powerful Jade Snow Frost? Of course. Cultivate well and follow the mental cultivation method I gave you. Yes. Your Highness, please. Please take Princess Xi back to her room to rest. I can't hear anything. Lin Muyu was indeed going to take Tang Xiaoxi back to her room, but what she was going to do was different from what Situ Sen had expected. She was going to help Tang Xiaoxi continue to improve her cultivation. After all, her godhead had already broken through to the heavenly Dao godhead. With her aptitude and the nine-tailed demon fox's innate potential, as long as she cultivated properly, her godhead would definitely continue to break through. It might even become the caste Immortal godhead or the Overgod godhead. Refining the godhead and absorbing the demon spirit stones was not an easy task. She needed someone to protect her. To Tang Xiaoxi, the best person to protect her was naturally Lin Muyu. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Balls of scarlet flames revolved in Tang Xiaoxi's palms. She and Lin Muyu sat opposite each other on the cattail hassock on the floor of the room. Their palms were round and the flames revolved. LV Feng's fire godhead was at the core of the flames. With Tang Xiaoxi's cultivation, she no longer needed to use Lin Muyu's crafting cauldron to refine the godhead. Lin Muyu was not idle either. Tonight, while helping Tang Xiaoxi to break through, she also refined a demon spirit stone to absorb divine energy. It had been a long time since she last broke through. It was time for her next breakthrough. Wisps of golden flames surrounded Tang Xiaoxi's delicate body. She liked the fiery energy very much. She could not help but raise her long neck and exhale a breath of fire. The process of refining LV Feng's godhead seemed to be very smooth. Lin Muyu calmly sat on the floor with her right hand hanging down. A demon spirit stone was slowly jumping in her left palm. It was like spinning silk from a cocoon, turning each grain of spiritual energy into her own. Not long after, Tang Xiaoxi's body suddenly trembled. It was the counterattack of the godhead. In the vigorous flames, a burly man rushed over and roared, "Don't even think of killing me. LV Feng will not sit still and wait for death. I will kill you, you little whore." Tang Xiaoxi hated it the most when people scolded her like this. She raised her eyebrows and countless flames rushed out from her surroundings. Even the faint image of a nine-tailed demon fox appeared above her head. Suddenly, the trace of spiritual sense contained in LV Feng's godhead was instantly dispersed. It was refined in the blink of an eye. After an unknown period of time, Lin Muyu also exhaled a breath of turbid air. The power in her body surged and expanded. It was time. She urged the power and began to attack the divine energy Xian gate in her Qi Si. Everything was going smoothly. When Lin Muyu broke through to the 23rd level grotto heaven, Tang Xiaoxi also stepped into the 22nd level grotto heaven with a face full of joy. So tired, her face was full of exhaustion. She crawled forward and rested on Lin Muyu's lap. A sweet smile hung on the corner of her mouth. "I'm going to sleep first. Do you want to continue cultivating?" Lin Muyu gently stroked her shoulder. "Go to sleep. I will also close my eyes and rest for a while. We still have to go to the sea in the morning." Tang Xiaoxi closed her eyes and fell asleep peacefully. Chapter 797. Tear apart the darkness with your thunderbolts. Otherwise die. The instructor's cruel laughter echoed in the training field of the Western Divine Realm. Do you think you can gain the respect of the world just because you come from the major families? Stop dreaming. This is the training field, the final destination of the proud gods. In the air, the instructor waved his whip. As the whip flashed, a bolt of lightning bloomed in the air. Below, in the sealed space of the training field, the participants were trying their best to control the ability to summon wind and rain. Dark clouds covered the sky, and bolts of lightning crazily crashed into the secret rooms. However, every secret room seemed to be covered by a layer of energy barrier. In the raging wind, Vice Dean Li Fei crossed her arms and stepped on the void. Her short cloak fluttered in the wind. She squinted her beautiful eyes and looked at the densely packed secret rooms in the training field. She said, "How many people are left?" "There are 42 people left." Kulun said respectfully, "Lady Li Fei, only 42 people have stepped into the 20th level of Grotto Heaven. Terralin, Xin and Lake each made a breakthrough 2 days ago." "Not bad." Li Fei said calmly, "Pass down my order. The last person to walk out of the secret room will be punished." "What kind of punishment?" "Death." Kulun's body trembled. "Yes, I understand." Holding the whip, Kulun flew in the air above the training field. He gathered his divine power in his voice and said, "All participants, please take note. Please break out of the secret room as soon as possible. The last person to walk out of the secret room will be severely punished with death. Trash is not qualified to become a member of the Divine Realms training field." As soon as he finished speaking, there was a loud bang. The barrier of one of the secret rooms suddenly exploded. A beautiful woman stood in the air with a cloud of smoke. It was Dora. As expected, she was the first to pass the test. Although Dora came from a plane that lacked resources, the pride in her heart seemed to be above that of the descendants of the various great families in the Immortal realm. She looked at the other sealed rooms behind her, and only relaxed after confirming that she was the first person to pass the test. However, in less than 10 seconds, there was another explosion and the second person who passed the test appeared. In the strong wind, a petite figure walked on the wind. Dora looked coldly at Xin. When the two of them brushed past each other, Dora lowered her voice and smiled faintly. "You're not bad." "Oh, is that so?" Xin was indescribably calm. "But you better be careful. I can only get first place in this Chosen of God trial. If necessary, I won't hesitate to kill you. I hope you understand this." Dora sneered. The corners of her lips curled into a sinister smile that didn't match her age at all. Xin walked straight to the vice principal and Kulun and said softly, "Don't be too full of yourself." "You?" Dora's gaze was cold, but she didn't say anything else. It wasn't her habit to talk too much. Not long after, Terralin, Lake, Luo Pei, Zhou Xian and the others all passed the test. Li Fei floated in the air holding a notebook in her hand. She took out a pen and recorded on it. She smiled and said, "You'll get points according to your ranking. The first 3 places, Dora, Xin and Terralin, will get 10 points. The 4th to 7th places will get 5 points. The first 15 places will get 3 points. Currently, the first place in the Chosen of God trial is still Dora." As she spoke, she looked deeply at the crowd and said, "Do your best." "Yes, Vice Principal." The group of students also learned to be respectful through the trials. No matter where they came from or what great family they came from, as long as they entered the trial grounds, they would only be a simple participant. If they did something wrong, they would still be severely punished. Every day there would be people who were beaten until their flesh was lacerated, and there would even be people who died every day. Out of the 221 people who had entered, only 42 were left. Xin remembered very clearly that many people had been eliminated on the first day. However, the true difficulty was the black coffins. Even now, there were still 94 people who remained in the black coffins until they broke through. Perhaps many people would die in the black coffins. Of course, this was excluding the children of the great families. Most of these families were located in the faraway borders of the star domain, guarding dozens or even hundreds of planes. There were countless powerhouses at the level of angels, and the children of these families were naturally exempt from the trial grounds. After all, the ruler Claude also needed their support, so he couldn't afford to offend them. This was the 6th day of the Chosen by God trial. Just the day before, Xian had personally witnessed 3 students being killed by the instructor during their fight. The bloody scene was still vivid in her mind, and it was still fresh in her mind. He couldn't die. She had to live, to remember who she was. This was the only thing she wanted to do. She knew that someone was waiting for her in the distance. Although she had already forgotten everything, even the person waiting for her, she was certain. Xin. Vice Dean Li Fei's voice came from the air. She looked disdainfully at Xin coldly and asked, "What are you thinking about?" Xin said respectfully, "Nothing, Vice Dean." "Come with me. I have something to tell you." "Yes, Vice Dean." Xin leaped up and followed Li Fei out of the trial grounds. Li Fei flew straight towards the instructor's dormitory. A circular building appeared in the distance. This was Li Fei's living quarters. Creak. The wooden door slowly opened. A faint fragrance came from inside. Li Fei was the most beautiful woman among the instructors in the trial grounds. She was also the goddess in the eyes of most male instructors. She maintained a very particular lifestyle. Her living quarters were elegant and clean. However, none of the instructors in the trial grounds dared to approach Li Fei. This was because she had another nickname, Sweet Thorn. As the vice dean and a god emperor-level radiant angel, ordinary gods were not qualified to approach her. Come in. After Li Fei walked into the room, she revealed a lazy expression. She kicked off her leather boots and stepped barefoot on the floor. She smiled and said, Xian, I have something a friend asked me to give to you. Xian was surprised. Li Fei was holding something wrapped in cloth. After unwrapping it, it was a stone with a dense spiritual light. Radiant primordial stone? Xian was stunned. That's right, it's a radiant primordial stone. A radiant primordial stone that has been preserved for nearly 7,000 years. Li Fei smiled. Xian asked me to give this to you. She can't enter the trial grounds during the trial, so she asked me to give this radiant primordial stone that she has preserved for many years to you. She hopes that this radiant primordial stone will allow you to break through in a short period of time. According to the classification of power, you should be at the 37th stage of the Grotto Heaven realm. However, I believe that you also know that you still have a lot of potential that hasn't been stimulated. Therefore, I hope that after you refine this radiant primordial stone, you will be able to step into the 40th stage of the Grotto Heaven realm. That way you won't be killed by duo law. Xian was surprised. Li Fei seemed to know what she was thinking. What do you think the God's chosen trial is? It's just a competition where the weak are prey to the strong. In order to become the final victor, everyone will do anything. They will give up the dignity and nature of gods and kill each other, especially duo law. As she said this, Li Fei sighed. The plane that duo law came from is a barren plane, a plane that has been destroyed. The nuclear war has left that plane without any life. Duo law survived the radiation and pollution. Her family has all died. Now there is only hatred and killing in duo la's heart. She wants to step on everyone's corpses and step onto the peak of the strong. And you, in this God's chosen trial, are the only person that can keep her in check. Do you understand? Xian was silent. It doesn't matter if you understand or not. In any case, you can't be killed by her. Otherwise, you will fail to live up to the expectations that Lady Xian has for you. Li Fei stood up, straightened her chair and said, You can cultivate here. Refine this radiant origin stone first. 2 days from now is the final trial. Your opponents are the ancient demons. You must survive and participate in the final God's chosen trial. Xian held the radiant origin stone and finally spoke. Why do you want to help me? Help you? Li Fei suddenly smiled. Don't misunderstand. The one who truly wants to help you is Xian. I don't want to help you. To me, the God's chosen trial is nothing more than a once-in-a-century tradition. I'm just an executor. Thank you. No need to thank me. Li Fei began to take off her stockings. Hurry up and cultivate. I hope I won't disturb you. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. When Xian finished refining the radiant origin stone and opened his eyes, Li Fei smiled. As expected, your comprehension of the law of light is extraordinary. This is too surprising. In 2 days you broke through 3 realms and entered the 40th heavenly abode. I think there shouldn't be a second person in the world who can do this, right? Xian stood up and respectfully bowed. Thank you. I already said no need to thank me. Li Fei put on her cloak and boots and said, Let's go to the trial field. Today is the day you challenge the evil beast. Remember, if you survive, you will be the one who used up 2 radiant origin stones. If you die, the Western Divine Realm will have wasted 2 radiant origin stones. Do you understand? I understand. Let's go. When Xian and Li Fei entered the trial field together, many students revealed looks of jealousy and hatred, especially Dora. Her eyes were filled with hatred as she clenched her fists. The corner of her mouth twitched. She said calmly, I am first. That should be my honor. Terralyn sneered. Is that so? What, you don't accept it? Dora said coldly as she looked at Terralyn. Hee. Terralyn smiled and didn't reply. Lake's body trembled slightly. He seemed to be a little afraid but also a little excited. Do you know what we're going to challenge today? Everyone knows. Terilyn raised her eyebrows. Gaia, an ancient evil beast. An evil beast born with divine power. The biggest difference in this trial field is that there are nearly 100 Gaia domesticated. So you know. Lake was a little disappointed. He immediately looked at Xian, who was next to Li Fei. Don't think about it. Terilyn's lips curled up. You don't deserve her. You. Lake had known Terilyn since he was young. He couldn't help but clench his fists. He wanted to immediately teach her a lesson. Chapter 798. There were a total of 29 people who participated in the challenge against Gaia, which was 15 fewer than the previous 44 people. Xian knew that 9 of the 15 people had exited the trial due to exhaustion after breaking out of the closed chamber. Another 5 people had died from the backlash while trying to break through the barrier. As for the last person, he was killed by the instructor because he was ranked last. The trial grounds had always been like this. The survival of the fittest was even better than the mortal world. Today all of you are challengers. Li Fei wore a short black skirt and walked up to the podium with a smile on her face. All of you are the elites of the Western Star region, chosen by the families of the various planes. You can be called the elites of the divine realm. I believe all of you know who the challengers are. That's right, it's Gaia, the evil beast that hides in the dark caves of the universe. It's also a legendary fierce beast. Every Gaia has the strength of the first heavenly layer of the divine realm when it's a cub. When it matures, it has the cultivation of at least the 30th heavenly layer. Since ancient times, let me see, she suddenly looked down at her notebook and smiled. A total of 47,831 elites of the Western Divine Realm have died under the claws of Gaia. I hope that today, you won't let this number continue to increase. Right, one by one. We'll start with the last one. Let's go, we're going to challenge Gaia. Open the door. When Li Fei shouted to open the door, a group of celestial realm guards pulled the noose with all their might. Suddenly, the ground split open and a green stone staircase led underground. Obviously, Gaia was domesticated underground. Li Fei walked in front and floated into the underground cave. Soon Xian, Terilyn, and the other contestants were escorted underground by the celestial realm guards. A fishy smell assaulted their nostrils. It was obviously the smell of Gaia's prey. The underground was relatively bright. A huge origin lamp illuminated the entire underground lair. Here the stone walls were filled with crisscrossed claw marks. At the bottom of the entire cave was a circular space. The surroundings bulged and were blocked by crisscrossing iron chains. The iron chains glowed with a faint luster. Obviously they were infused with divine power. Needless to say, every participant must have challenged the Gaia evil beast in this arena. Everyone's expressions turned ugly. They had only heard of Gaia in legends. Now that they were about to see it for themselves, they felt an inexplicable sense of fear. Even Duo Law, who had the strongest cultivation base among them, had a slight change in expression. When she turned to look at Xian, she discovered that the beautiful young lady was still able to keep her heart as still as water. Immediately, Duo La's expression turned even uglier. The 29th place. As it's Hanlun. Men, bring Hanlun into the arena. Li Fei's voice was filled with an unquestionable tone. The group of contestants looked down at the arena from above. Hanlun was a young man of about 20 years old. He said with a pale face, Can I give up the qualification? It's too late. Li Fei smiled faintly, go. As long as you enter the arena, it doesn't matter if you run or fight. If you don't die after 5 minutes, then you've passed this test. 2 instructors rushed forward and twisted Hanlun's arms on each side. They couldn't help but separate and drag Hanlun into the gate of the arena. The iron gate closed with a clang sound as if it was a judgment. With a swoosh, a contestant's longsword fell from his hand. Just as the longsword touched the edge of the arena, a flame flew up. The barrier instantly melted the longsword into a pile of scrap iron. Oh, I almost forgot to mention. The barrier here is very powerful. If someone without a divine wall tries to break through the barrier, they will be burned to ashes. Li Fei smiled, don't try. Everyone's expression turned even uglier. Huff. Huff. In the arena, Hanlun panted heavily. He had stepped into the 21st heaven realm at such a young age. In his hometown he was a rare genius. But at this moment Han Luan's heart was filled with fear. Release Guya. Two celestial world guards pulled the noose with all their might. In the next moment, a door in the distance slowly opened. In the darkness, two lanterns swayed. It was the light of the eyes of evil beast. Roar! A fishy smell assaulted everyone's nostrils. An ugly giant creature with 4 limbs walked out. Its body was covered in jagged scales like the skin of a crocodile. Its 4 limbs supported its body, but under its ugly head was a pair of arms like the pincers of a scorpion. Its body was covered in a layer of golden light. Roar! When Guya smelled the scent of humans, it was extremely excited and directly rushed over. Han Luan gritted his teeth. Since he couldn't avoid it, he could only fight with all his might. With a shake of his palm, a long sword engraved with runes appeared. With a roar, his body shone brightly. His entire body turned into a beam of light and rushed toward Guya. Bang! Guya paused for a moment, but Han Luan's body bounced back like a cannonball. He slammed heavily into the stone wall and fell to the ground while vomiting blood. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you. Li Fei smiled and said, every Guya will have a 100% chance of understanding the God Wall after reaching adulthood. Unless you can pierce through Guya's God Wall, don't even think of harming it. This is also the reason why Guya's numbers have never decreased in the past tens of thousands of years. Contestants have no way of killing Guya. They just need to last for 5 minutes. Damn bastard. In the arena, Han Luan was furious. He raised his long sword and flew, dodging Guya's pouncing bite. He had actually given up on attacking and only focused on dodging. Just like Li Fei said, if he could dodge Guya's attack and last for 5 minutes, it would be considered his victory. But Han Luan didn't. Gotcha! Guya's front claws suddenly attacked and clamped onto Han Luan's right leg. Amidst the sound of the leg bone breaking, Han Luan howled in pain. He waved his long sword and slashed out a light-type attack. Roar! What welcomed him was Guya's huge mouth. With another crunch, Han Luan's entire head was bitten off. Guya chewed on Han Luan's entire body in 2 or 3 bites. It seemed to be very satisfied. Challenge failed. Li Fei shrugged and said with a smile, you don't even need to prepare a coffin. How convenient. The group of contestants was stunned. Who could be as calm as this female dean? Many contestants couldn't help but take a few steps back, their faces pale. 28th place, enter. A few instructors were the first to enter the arena. They waved their swords and ordered the Guya to enter its lair. Following that, they opened another entrance and allowed an unharmed Guya to walk in. 28th place was a dark-skinned person. His weapon was very strange. Perhaps it wasn't even a weapon but a shield. Oh, it's Luo Fei from the Nia family. Terralyn smiled slightly and said, the Nia family is one of the few families that mainly use the law of light. Interesting. Luo Fei slowly entered the arena. Although he was nervous, he did not have too much fear. He held his shield and quietly looked at the Guya behemoth. Just when the behemoth launched its attack, his figure cleverly turned to avoid it. The behemoth roared continuously, raised its claws, and pounced on him with unavoidable flames. Devour mirror image. Luo Fei shouted and raised his giant shield. A huge black hole condensed in front of him as if absorbing all the light. The Guya behemoth's claw wind was also completely swallowed. Dang! The behemoth's body was actually bounced back by the light barrier. Ah! On the stage, everyone watching the battle was stunned. Although Luo Fei was only ranked 28th, he didn't seem to be weak. In the next 5 minutes, the arena was filled with the light of the collision of flames and the law of light shield. There were several times when the Guya behemoth almost swallowed Luo Fei, but Luo Fei was able to turn the danger into safety. Although he was badly injured, he still survived the difficult 5 minutes and survived. Enough Guya. Go back. Li Fei suddenly shouted. The sand in the hourglass had run out. Time was up. Woo woo. Guya quickly retreated and entered the nest with its tail between its legs. Luo Fei stumbled out. His shield was full of Guya's claws and teeth marks. His entire left arm was covered in blood, almost drenched. Treat him immediately. Next, get ready to enter, Li Fei said lightly. Around noon, it was finally Xin's turn. She was ranked 10th in the first round, which was why her overall ranking was lower. Before Xin, a total of 15 people had passed Guya's test. The other 9 had become Guya's meal. There were bloodstains everywhere in the arena. It was a horrible sight. "Make sure you don't get eaten by Gaia," Dora said with a sneer as he crossed his arms. Xian glanced at her and said nothing. She went straight to the iron gate. Instructor Kulin opened the gate for her and whispered, "Xian, are you confident?" Xian smiled and asked, "If I kill you, will I be punished?" "No." Kulin was stunned. "Thank you, instructor." The girl slowly entered the arena. With a slight shake of her hand, a dazzling long sword appeared in her palm. It was Lin Muyu's stellar sword. "That is..." Li Fei furrowed her brows tightly as if she had seen this weapon somewhere before, but she couldn't remember where. The other instructors knew nothing. They had never seen this sword before. They did not even know who Lin Muyu was. After all, there was no Weibo or WeChat moments in the Divine Realm. No matter how well Lin Muyu did in the Shattered Cauldron Realm, the gods in the Divine Realm did not know about it. Roar! An intact Guya came out of the cage. Facing its petite opponent, it seemed to be very disdainful. It roared and wagged its huge tail, staring at her. Chapter 799. Roar. Gaia's sharp claws swept over with raging flames. It was as if the space was about to be melted by the flames. This was a giant beast that had cultivated to the 41st level of Grotto Heaven. It was the strongest Gaia that the participants had encountered so far in this year's Chosen of God trial. Buzz buzz buzz. The flames burned the air, forming a cyclone that could burn skin and scrape bones. Xian raised her long sword in front of her chest and her face was pale. The impact of the 41 divine waves made her feel extremely uncomfortable. The Shura bloodline hidden in her body instantly boiled, and streams of blood-red light condensed around her body. However, she could not reveal her identity as a Shura. She gritted her teeth and suppressed this powerful force. She raised her palm and the pure power of the law of light swept out. Break. With a loud explosion, her body penetrated the large net formed by the flames. She appeared behind the Gaia beast's head like lightning. She raised her sword and instantly burst out 3 sharp slashes. Ping ping ping. 3 consecutive slashes actually made the Gaia god wall shine. Roar roar. Gaia was infuriated. It turned around and waved its claws continuously, and raging flames rose to the sky. The girl had no place to dodge the domain-like attack. She was sent flying and crashed into the god power boundary above the arena. It was a powerful boundary that could melt swords. "Be careful." Terralyn could not help but shout, "Xian, be careful." But it was too late. Xian's body still crashed straight into the boundary. Peng! The entire underground arena trembled. Waves of golden energy suddenly appeared around Xian's body, protecting her body from being burned by the boundary. The group of participants was stunned. God wall. It's a god wall. He actually has a god wall. Even Dora showed an astonished expression and the jealousy on his face grew thicker. The intense pain on her back made Xian even more unable to control the desire to kill in her heart. When her body bounced back and rushed towards Gaia, her entire left arm was almost enveloped in a blood-red wave. That was definitely not the power of the law of light. Ping. A palm print landed on Guya's head, directly shattering the god wall. The moment his killing intent flared up, he could no longer hold it in. With a light clench of his fingers, Xian's fingers pierced through Gaia's skull, and the long sword in his right hand pierced through Gaia's skull. Xian managed to maintain his consciousness, and he quickly retracted his Azura energy. Instead, he channeled the pure light energy in his body into the stellar sword. His dragon energy and overgod energy merged together, and a dragon's roar resounded in the air. Azure Dragon burst. She didn't even know why she knew this martial art. It was as if she knew it from the beginning. This power had been hidden in her body for far too long. Now, in the face of life and death, she inadvertently used it in an overwhelming manner. Ping ping ping. The violent sounds did not stop. A ray of light attribute Blue Dragon Profound Energy violently attacked, shredding Gaia's skin and flesh. It lingered around as if it was scraping the bones. When the Blue Dragon break was used up, all that was left of Gaia was a giant skeleton. The rest of its flesh and blood had all been blasted into scraps. Boom. Gaia's skeleton landed heavily on the ground, turning into a pile of dust. The destructive power of the Azure Dragon burst was unimaginable. She stood in the air blankly and the stellar sword flashed across her eyes. She raised her hands and stared at her palms. She had no idea where this power came from. Xian, you passed the test. In the air, Vice Principal Li Fei acted as if nothing had happened. She said calmly, clean up the arena. The next participant is ready to take the test. Quick, I'm still waiting for lunch. Yes, Vice Principal. Xian, come out too. Yes. The moment Xian slowly walked out of the battle arena, the contestants were practically in an uproar. She was the first contestant to kill Guya. She was the first person in history to do so. An instructor came to Li Fei's side and whispered, Vice Principal, what do you think? What do I think? He had a complicated expression and said, this Gaia has the cultivation of 41st Grotto Heaven, and it has the purest power of the law of fire. The only person who can kill it is someone above the 50th Grotto Heaven. But she isn't that strong. The power she used just now doesn't belong to the law of light. Shouldn't we what? Li Fei glared at him and said, my duty is to select rare geniuses for the Western Divine Realm. I don't care about anything else. I'm the Vice Principal, the person in charge of the arena. Whoever dares to mess with my business, I'll make them suffer the consequences. Do you understand? The instructor's face turned pale. Yes, Vice Principal. Just treat it as I've said too much. Continue to prepare for the next test. Yes. Following that, Terralyn, Lake and the others passed the test. Lake suffered a light injury, but he managed to survive for 5 minutes. When it was Dora's turn, she tried to kill the Gaia she was facing but failed. In the end, she only slightly injured the Gaia's front paw. She didn't do anything else. In the end, a total of 20 people passed Gaia's test. Li Fei continued to hold the notebook and said, the ranking has been updated. Those who passed the test will receive 8 points. Xian successfully killed Gaia and will receive 15 points as an exception. The new ranking is, Xian is ranked first, Dora is ranked second and Terralyn is ranked third. Have a good rest. The day after tomorrow will be the day you graduate from the Divine Realms trial field. It will also be the day you decide the final top 10. Terralyn couldn't help but ask, Madam Li Fei, how will the final ranking be calculated? Li Fei smiled, this batch is a little special. Lake asked, what's special? Li Fei brushed her hair and said, the 20 of you will be sent into a forest in a different dimension. Each of you will be given a nameplate. You will be ranked according to the number of people you kill. The first will receive the blessing of a rank 7 battle angel, the second to 5th will receive the blessing of a rank 6 battle angel, and the 6th to 10th will receive the blessing of a rank 5 battle angel. As for the rest, there might not be any other rewards, so we won't count them. Everyone fell silent. Were they going to kill each other in the end? Xian's bright eyes looked at Dora. She knew that she wouldn't be able to escape this battle. Moreover, Dora would do everything in her power to kill her. The ambition and desire in her eyes couldn't be concealed. She wanted to become a rank 7 battle angel. She wanted to become the new successor of the Radiant Angel. She wanted to kill all her competitors. Night, dormitory area. There were only 3 people left in the large room, Xian, Terralyn and another girl. Of the original 12 people, 9 had died or left the trial field. Of those, a large number had died. Xian. Terralyn sat at the head of the bed and sighed. Are you afraid of Dora? Afraid. Xian smiled. There's nothing for her to be afraid of. She should be afraid of herself, right? But her ambition will destroy her. Xian didn't say anything else. She covered herself with the quilt and lay down. She needed to rest. Terralyn couldn't fall asleep. She sat there quietly. If you meet me in the trial field of a different dimension, will you kill me? Terralyn asked again after a while. But there was no response. Xian had already fallen asleep. Clang clang. There was a knock on the iron door outside. The instructor shouted, stop talking and get some rest. Otherwise I'll drag you out and strip you for everyone to see. The instructor of the realm of gods really didn't have a shred of shame. Terralyn couldn't help but smile faintly. Looking at Xian's back, she murmured, I hope you already treat me as a friend. In the darkness, Xian's opened eyes slowly closed. The corner of her mouth rose as she continued to sleep. Shattered Cauldron Realm, more than 200 miles north of the 8 Wastelands. It was a world of ice and snow. This place was known as the Frozen Pole. It was rarely visited by humans. It was said that the soil closest to the surface was buried 10 meters deep under the snow, and this depth was constantly increasing. The frozen pole had snow and grade 7 winds during the day and grade 10 gales at night. There was no vegetation in the frozen pole. Not even a blade of grass grew in the frozen pole. There were only some strange plants buried deep in the ground and the sea in the frozen pole. The frozen pole was connected to the East Sea, but the sea had long been frozen. A snow-white fur seal was crawling on the ice, trying to find a hole to burrow into. The algae and fish in the sea were its only food. Whoosh! A cold arrow pierced through the fur seal's head. It howled miserably and fell on the glacier. Amidst the rustling sounds, a man quickly approached and grabbed the fur seal's body. He said with a face full of joy, "Marshal, this fur seal weighs at least 50 kilograms. Ah, that's great." In the distance, a group of banners was fluttering in the cold wind. It was a demon army. Qianfeng spurred his horse forward, his face ashen. "Let's cook it in another 10 miles. If we can't find any plains or land, I'm afraid many of us will freeze or starve to death in the next 3 days." "Don't worry, Marshal. We gods are the descendants of the gods. The gods will protect us." "Is that so?" Qianfeng looked up at the snowy sky and said, "If we really are the descendants of the gods, I'm afraid we wouldn't have ended up here. Where are His Majesty and the 2 princes now?" "Marshal Shen Baichuan is leading an army of armored demons to protect them from the west. We can still see some ground from there." Have you found any traces of the Longdan army camp?" "No, Weichou has retreated." "I'm afraid they've already retreated from the 8 wastelands. Protect His Majesty and the 2 princes. If necessary." Qianfeng muttered, "We have to kill our way back. Otherwise the icebound pole will only be the end of our race." "Yes." Qianfeng stroked his horse's neck. It was a little restless. In fact, the war horses in the army had not eaten grass for many days. If they continued forward, they would run out of food and ammunition. However, Qianfeng had no other choice but to continue forward in search of a new chance of survival for his race. Only, would there really be land for survival in the cold polar pole? That was probably just wishful thinking. Chapter 800. On the 24th of March, the morning of early spring was misty. The snow had melted and warmth had returned to the earth, as if spring had just officially arrived at this moment. Construction was going on everywhere in Winter Frost City. The East capital had just been built and all kinds of public facilities needed to be expanded and repaired. At this time, what the Qin Empire lacked was not money but time. On the city wall, a magic crystal cannon was being hoisted and installed. Duke Weichou was standing by, supervising the construction in person. The defense position of the East City Gate was very important. If Winter Frost City was attacked by the enemy, this direction would be the first to bear the brunt. As the cold wind of early spring blew, the belt of Weichou's robe in front of his chest swayed slowly. A mysterious power of ghosts and gods lingered around his body like clouds and mist, which was quite a spectacle. Tuck tuck. The sound of hooves galloping came quickly. 2 scouts of the Longdan army camp, who were 10-man squad leaders, reported loudly, "Commander, our people have captured a cargo ship from the Celestial Pole continent at the harbor of the East China Sea. The people on the ship said that they are envoys from the Tianji Empire. They want to see your highnesses, Commander." Envoys from the Tianji Empire? Weichou looked at the fertile land in the distance, which was the direction of the Tianji Empire. What did the Tianji Empire want to do more than 2,000 miles away? Either start a war or negotiate peace. Did they send envoys to make an alliance? On second thought, Weichou couldn't help but laugh. The Tianji Empire was so powerful that there was no reason for wolves to ally with sheep. How many people do they have? 12 in total. One of them is wearing luxurious clothes. He should be the envoy. Take away their weapons and equipment. Send 200 Dragon Courage cavalrymen to escort them to the main hall. Yes. 2 hours later, in the main hall of East Capital, Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, Feng Jixing, Qin Yan and others were all there. Lin Muyu stood in front of the throne with her hand on the hilt of her sword, waiting with a smile. "You seems to be looking forward to this envoy?" Feng Jixing asked with a smile. "Yes, at least from this envoy we can more or less see the attitude of the royal family of the Tianji Empire towards us." "Yes, I think so too." At the foot of the throne there were many officials. Zhen Yifan, Xiang Yu, Weichou, Bailey Tsong, Su Yu and the others were all present. Even Luo Exin had traveled thousands of miles from Yunzhong province to dispatch troops. After the enfeoffment of 4 dukes and 5 marquises, the military power of the Qin Empire was very centralized. At the very least, the situation of Tang Lan and Su Muyun refusing to dispatch troops would not happen again. Not long after, the emissary answered the summons. He was a lean man with a few attendants, but his weapons had already been removed. Tianji Empire's Tianji Province's envoy, Zhou Xian, greets Prince Qin, Prince Exin, Prince Zhong and Princess Xi. He was calm and could actually identify everyone's identity one by one. It was enough to show how much the Tianji Empire knew about the Qin Empire. At the very least, they had done their homework. You know us. Feng Jixing said coldly. No, it's just my first time seeing the faces of the 3 princes. Then how do you know us? Zhou Xian smiled. It's very simple. The 3 princes are famous far and wide. Prince Qin Lin Muyu is well versed in the power of laws and is handsome. Prince Exin Feng Jixing is calm and steady. He is well versed in the laws of wind, fire and thunder. Prince Exin Qinyan is the youngest among the 3 princes. Princess Tang Xiaoxi is extremely beautiful and can be said to be the #1 beauty in the Shattered Tripod realm. How could I not know her? What a sharp tongue. Tang Xiaoxi smiled. Zhou Xian, since you're the envoy of the Tianji Empire, tell me why you're here. Yes, Princess Xi. Zhou Xian raised his head, completely ignoring the gazes of the Qin Empire's civil and military officials around him. He said, the Tianji Empire is located in the northwest of the celestial pole continent. It has a vast land and a prosperous people. His Majesty, the sacred martial emperor Baiming Yuan, has long heard of the Shattered Tripod realm's richness and prosperity. Therefore, he wishes to form an alliance to protect and help each other. Along the way, I've seen a few counties and chambers of commerce in the Lingdong province. I'm deeply impressed by the prosperity of the Qin Empire. Your country's cloud brocade and silk weaving skills are superb and can be said to be otherworldly. Therefore, I request to establish trade relations with your country and exchange our Tianji Empire's goods for cloud brocade and silk weaving. Lin Muyu had long known that there was no silk in the celestial pole continent. Their brocade clothes were actually only equivalent to the fine cloth in the Shattered Tripod realm. In terms of true luxury, Tang Xiaoxi's cloud brocade dress was probably enough to instantly outshine all the luxurious clothes of the imperial concubines in the imperial palace of Tianji City. What do you have to exchange with us? Lin Muyu asked. Zhou Xian smiled. We have gold and silver. If your highness needs them, we can also transport the beauties of the Tianji Empire to the Shattered Tripod realm. Moreover, His Majesty said that as long as the Shattered Tripod realm is sincere in establishing trade relations with us, he's willing to pay 30% of our business income from the coastal ports of the Shattered Tripod realm as taxes. 30%? Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. Is 30% enough? Then 40%. Zhou Xian's expression didn't look too good. Lin Muyu spread her fingers. 50% then. Oh right, what other good things do you have? Apart from money and women. Demon spirit stones, Zhou Xian said indifferently. Demon spirit stones? Lin Muyu pretended to be suspicious. Zhou Xian shook his head with a smile. That's right. Demon spirit stones are a kind of treasure that is completely different from the spirit stones in your empire's territory. Demon spirit stones are formed from the body of a demon spirit and can be refined and absorbed by cultivators. Regardless of whether one is in the sacred realm or the divine realm, one can absorb demon spirit stones without limit. In this way, an outstanding genius can obtain a great leap in power within a few years or even half a year. Are you really going to sell us demon spirit stones? Feng Jixing asked. That's right. Zhou Xian waved his hand and smiled. However, demon spirit stones are too precious and rare. Therefore, they can only be traded between countries. Every year, the Tianji Empire can sell 500 demon spirit stones of the 6th tier and 3,000 demon spirit stones of the 7th tier to your empire. The price will be 200,000 Jin coins and 50,000 Jin coins respectively. What do you think? 200,000 Jin coins for one. Lin Muyu squinted her eyes. Why don't you just rob us? Our Jin coins are 30% heavier than the gold coins of your empire. Moreover, they are all made of pure gold. The value of gold is equivalent. I think we don't need the demon spirit stones. Guards, send our guests off. A group of soldiers from the Longdan army camp stepped forward. "Wait, Your Highness Emperor Qin," Zhou Xian hurriedly said. "Are you refusing to trade with us? Trade is an important matter between two countries. If Your Highness refuses, I'm afraid it will affect the trade between our two countries in the future. Your Highness, please reconsider." "Trade? That's fine too." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Go back and tell His Majesty Beiming Abyss that after your ships trade at our port, you will have to pay 50% of the tax to the Lingdong province's government. In addition, the ships of the Tianji Empire and the Blackstone Empire can only land at Blue Wind Port, Tianjin Port and Whitefish Port in the Lingdong province to trade. I have specially approved a few routes for your country and the Blackstone Empire. Your ships can only travel on this route. If they deviate from the route or land at other ports, they will be attacked by our army. In addition, all merchants from the Tianji Empire and the Blackstone Empire can only stop at the ports and are not allowed to enter the mainland. Everyone has to register as soon as they reach the shore. Otherwise they will be arrested. Do you understand?" Zhou Xian was stunned for a moment before he looked deeply at Lin Muyu and cupped his fists with a smile. "Emperor Qin Lin Muyu, the son of the radiant prince Qin Jin, you truly live up to your reputation. I'm impressed." He raised his head and said, "Then everything will be according to His Highness Emperor Qin's instructions. Let's trade at the three main ports. We will draft a document detailing the trade rules." Tang Xiaoxi said, "Please rest in the post house in Winter Frost City for 2 to 3 days. You can return to report after you've collected the document." "Yes, I understand. Thank you for your hospitality, Princess Shi." Men escort the envoy to the post house to rest. Under Tang Xiaoxi's order, a few imperial guards immediately went forward to escort Zhou Xian away. Zhou Xian was indescribably steady and calm. He bowed to the crowd and left calmly. The crowd was in an uproar after Zhou Xian left. "This person has ulterior motives. We have to be careful." Xiang Yu squinted and said, "He clearly has at least a 10th level Grotto Heaven Realm cultivation base, but he hid his aura to be as simple as a Heaven Realm cultivation base." "Humph," Lin Muyu said, "it's not 10th level Grotto Heaven but 21st level Grotto Heaven." "What?" Luo Xian was stunned. "Your Highness, he really has a 21st level Grotto Heaven cultivation base." "Yes." Although Luo Xian had been cultivating diligently for the past few years, she had only entered the Holy Heaven realm. She could not see through Zhou Xian's true strength at all. On the other hand, the stronger Lin Muyu could see through Zhou Xian's suppressed power. She could determine his specific cultivation base and ability from his breathing and the pulse of his power. Zheng Yifan held the jade tablet in his hand and said calmly, "Your Highnesses, do you think the Tianji Empire and the Blackstone Empire sincerely want to trade with us?" Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing shook their heads together. Qin Yan, on the other hand, was ignorant of the affairs of the world. He stood there blankly. In terms of shrewdness and decision-making, he was much inferior to Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing. "Master Fan, what do you think of this matter?" Lin Muyu asked. Zheng Yifan took a deep breath. "It's very simple. The Tianji Empire could have directly sent an army to invade us, but they didn't. Instead, they went to great lengths to send an envoy like Zhou Xian over. Then there can only be two reasons. The first reason might be that Zhou Xian's visit was fake, and his real purpose was to find out the actual situation of our army. The second reason is that they are stalling for time. Zhou Xian's arrival is just a cover-up. Perhaps the Tianji Empire and the Blackstone Empire have other plans." "That's right." Feng Jixing nodded. Lin Muyu placed her hand on the hilt of her sword. Her gaze was cold as she said, "Then we will not change. Send more scouts and warships into the East Sea. We will know the enemy's situation at all times. Then send people to keep an eye on Zhou Xian. We will not let him act rashly in Winter Frost City. Also, where is Beili Tsang?" The Navy commander Beili Tsang stepped forward. "I am here." "How is the Navy's warships assembly going?" Beili Tsang said in a deep voice. 2,000 warships and nearly 100,000 Navy soldiers are already stationed at the major military ports. In addition, 200 fortress ships have already set off from Daojiang. If there are no accidents, they will arrive at the East Sea coast in 2 days. Good. Then, let's end the court session and return to prepare for war. Lin Muyu lowered her head and thought for a moment. Then she said, "Ministry of Works, Xiling, you guys stay. Chapter 801. In the side hall, a group of guards stood far away from the door. There were only 5 people in the hall. Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, Feng Jixing, Minister of Works, and Qin Xiling. Your Highness, you must have something to tell me to stay, right? Qin Xiling asked. Yes. Lin Muyu put her hand into her Qinkuan bag and searched for a while. She took out a black stone and said, Minister of Works, Xiling, take a look at what this is. This is... Qin Xiling took the stone and was stunned. It's so heavy. What kind of stone is this? It's completely different from ordinary stones. And it's cold just like what? It's like coming from the cold hell. Hee, the stones of hell aren't cold. Lin Muyu smiled and said, this stone is called a demonic heart stone. It contains a kind of thing called demonic heart stone essence which can be extracted. The essence is the nemesis of God state experts. Once it enters the bloodline, it can solidify the flow of divine power, making God state experts unable to use any divine power for a short period of time. This kind of demonic heart stone is produced in the celestial pole continent. Some of their weapons and arrows are tempered with demonic heart stone essence. As long as these weapons pierce the skin, even God state experts will become ordinary people. Feng Jixing was stunned. This is really one disaster after another. Our strength is already inferior to the celestial pole continent, and now there's this demonic heart stone. It doesn't matter. Lin Muyu smiled. Anyway, we only have so few God state experts. What difference can it make? You're quite optimistic. Feng Jixing laughed. Also, the demonic heart stone can't penetrate the divine wall, so it's just a decoration for God state experts who have comprehended the ability of the divine wall. In general, the demonic heart stone is used to deal with those God state experts who don't have profound cultivation. Previously, it was basically used as a weapon to fight between the sects in the celestial pole continent. Tang Xiaoxi blinked and said, Mu, the demonic heart stone is so powerful and you're a master of forging weapons. Why don't you temper the essence of the demonic heart stone into your weapons? Actually, I've already tried. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and said, although the demon heart stone can break divine power, it is incompatible with the material of steel. It will destroy the rigidity of the weapon. If I refine the essence of the demon heart stone into my weapon, then my weapon will not be able to bear all of my divine power. It will break by itself. How can such a weapon cut through the protective aura of an opponent? So there are pros and cons. Feng Jixing rubbed his palms together and smiled. Then what do we do now? Why did you leave Xiling and the Ministry of Works behind? The demon heart stone can't be used to make weapons, but it can be used to temper arrows. After all, arrows are a one-time business. Once they are shot, there is no hope for them to turn back. If you're lucky, the arrows can indeed be a deterrent. As she spoke, Lin Muyu took out a black and white arrow and said, Here, this is my failed product last night. I refined the essence of the demon heart stone into the white diamond arrowhead. I've tried it. Originally, the white diamond arrowhead could easily shoot into the rock, but this failed product actually broke the moment it touched the rock. I'm afraid it will also be very difficult to shoot into the body of a God state warrior. Your Highness, are you saying that after refining the demon heart stone the arrowhead became brittle? Qin Xiling asked. Yes, you're right. It became brittle. Lin Muyu frowned and said, Perhaps the molecular structure of the demon heart stone is in conflict with the white diamond and iron. Otherwise it wouldn't be so brittle. Last night I fiddled with it for a long time but I still couldn't understand it. Xiling, here is a piece of demon heart stone and a white diamond arrow. You and the Ministry of Works can take it back and study it. Qin Xiling nodded. I'll go back and study it, but I can't guarantee that I will be able to find out the reason. Something that even your Highness you can't understand. I don't have the confidence. No, I believe you. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and said, You are the Empire's #1 genius, Qin Xiling, one of the most outstanding people in the Qin clan. If even you can't solve this problem, then no one can. Xiling, you developed the magic crystal cannon and saved the Empire from the iron hooves of the demon race. This time we still have to rely on you. Qin Xiling nodded deeply. Yes, thank you, Your Highness, for your praise. I will do my best. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, Big Brother Feng transferred 10 Imperial guards from the main hall. From now on, they will stay by Xiling's side and act as his personal guards. Xiling alone is equivalent to 2 of our regular armies. I understand. Feng Jixing agreed with a smile. Qin Xiling was extremely grateful. Thank you, Your Highness, for your kindness. No need to be polite. Lin Muyu said, Yan is Xiao Yin's cousin. Speaking of which, you can also be considered as Xiao Yin's cousin. It's just that she hasn't had the time to acknowledge you yet. As long as Xiao Yin can come back, I will definitely persuade her to acknowledge you as her cousin and grant you the title of king. This is my promise and I will never go back on it. King. Qin Xiling's entire body trembled. His entire person was dumbfounded. He was born in a distant branch of the declining Qin clan. His father had already given up on him and the entire clan had given up on him. But now he was the head of the weapons department and was already favored by thousands of people. He had made his father and clansmen look at him in a new light. If he was granted the title of king by the empress, then he would simply reach the peak of his life. Thinking of this, Qin Xiling almost cried. Don't cry, you're a man with a full beard. Lin Muyu teased him. Qin Xiling still wiped away his tears and said, Your Highness, we've known each other for 31 years. It's already been 42 years. These 11 years have passed by in the blink of an eye. You bunch of monsters will always have the same handsome appearance, but Xiling has grown old. Perhaps in a few years, Xiling will be an old man. When I see you again, don't, Xiling. Lin Muyu interrupted his words. We will forever be friends, no matter if we grow old or experience the vicissitudes of life. I have already passed on the forging dragon bone remnant scroll to you. You have to cultivate more outside of work. Don't worry, we won't wait until the day you die of old age. We will definitely let you live forever. Xiling nodded his head heavily. Then I'll go. Foster father, let's go back and study it together. The Minister of Works was also extremely excited. Qin Xiling had recognized him as his foster father a few months ago. Now that he heard that Qin Xiling would be a person who would be granted the title of king in the future, then he would be the father of the king. How could he not cry tears of joy? At this time the sound of hurried footsteps came from outside the door. It was Chu Yao. She held a letter as she walked in. Her beautiful eyes were red and filled with tears. Once she entered the side chamber, she began to cry. Older sister Chu Yao, what's wrong? Lin Muyu hurriedly asked. The letter in Chu Yao's hands fell to the ground and her shoulders trembled. She could not help but cry loudly. Great Deacon Guyang, he has passed away. Ah. Lin Muyu took a few steps back and stood there woodenly. Guyang and Lei Hong were of the same generation, but he did not step into the god realm, so he would eventually die of old age. One by one the elders passed away just like that. At this moment Lin Muyu felt that the cycle of reincarnation was so cruel that no matter how strong one was in the world, one would not be able to stop these kinds of things. Feng Jixing was sad as he softly said, Great Deacon Guyang had worked hard for the empire all his life. Now that he has passed away, it is really the empire's loss. Lin Muyu was silent as he stood there with a sour nose. He had been with Guyang for a long time and had long developed a friendship between them. Now that the news of Guyang's death had come, it was like a bolt from the blue to him. Mu, are you all right? Tang Xiaoxi held his arm and said softly. Nothing. Lin Muyu lowered his head and wiped his tears before saying, Older sister Chu Yao, use my name to send a letter back and order Lan Yen City to bury grandfather Guyang under the country guarding monument. I know. In one's life there were many things one could do and many things one could not do, but this was life and it was not up to others. At dusk the sea breeze blew the waves and constantly hit the reefs and the beach. The east seashore was full of rugged reefs and most of the areas could not be landed at all. It was very easy to cause ships to hit the reefs, and this was something that no ship dared to challenge. Thus there were more than 10 ports in the Lingdong province and only 3 of them were open to the public. 2 figures landed lightly on the surface of the sea and walked forward slowly on the waves. The nearly 1-meter-high waves actually avoided them as if they were retreating and submitting. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi had to come to the East Sea once a day. This place was a full 500 miles away from Dongshuang City, but they still had to come. This was their mission and responsibility. Looking from afar, a few ships were faintly discernible on the surface of the sea with a dark blue-purple flower flag hanging on the bow, which was the symbol of the empire. It was a warship, the patrolling warship of the empire's navy. No one knew when the war would come and why the Tianji Empire and the Blackstone Empire, two countries that were originally at war, would unite and facilitate the emergence of an honorary Shang League. Must be the Qin Empire. It was precisely because of the existence of the Qin Empire and the Empire's army that the Skywater City felt threatened. Otherwise, with the arrogance of the Northern Dark Abyss, how could he possibly form an alliance with the Darkstone Empire that was weaker than him? The other reason was the Celestial Empire. Qin Yu, Lin Muyu looked at the Far East and said, "Don't let me down. If you sit back and do nothing about this war, then the Qin Empire is finished. You will be next." Tang Xiaoxi smiled and said, "Mu, you are going crazy for the Empire. It would be great if I really went crazy. At least I wouldn't be so tired." Lin Muyu laughed at herself. "Are you okay?" Tang Xiaoxi held his hand. Lin Muyu gently pulled her into his arms. The two of them stood on the surface of the sea like a relief sculpture. "I don't know whether we can win this war or not. I feel that I can no longer control the future." Lin Muyu trembled and said, "When will Xiao Yin come back? When will she be willing to come back and help us?" Tang Xiaoxi hugged him tightly and tears came out of her eyes. "Everything will be fine." Tang Xiaoxi knew that the burden on his shoulders was too heavy. It was so heavy that even someone as strong as Lin Muyu almost couldn't bear it. The gains and losses of the world, the successes and failures of all ages. Anyone would probably be the same.